Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and celebrity legal news. Today, we are going to let's talk Diddy. We're going to go over the trial, the witnesses, everything related to it. We're going to give our thoughts, our opinions, and things like that. I will tell you, we are not lawyers. I don't have a lawyer on the panel. At least I don't know I do. But I'm going to bring everybody back, bring everybody up. Hold on. All right. We have on stage today
There
with
we
me,
go.
we have Lauren Victoria Burke. She is, tell them who you are. I'm just going to say your name and you tell the people who you are.
Well, I'm Lauren Burke, and I've worked in politics and journalism in New York and Virginia. Right now, I'm doing journalism, but I do a fair amount. I've done a fair amount of crisis communications work that kind of falls into the categories that we are talking about. And as a journalist, I've spent some time in courtrooms, usually federal court in Washington, D.C. and Virginia. But I'm not an attorney, though I have a judge in my family and I have a bunch of cops in my family, but I've never been a cop, never been a judge, and glad to be joined by everybody on here. I've seen, you know, you as individuals, and at Blue, I've never been on with you, or she dreads me, but I've really enjoyed your shows. So honored to be here.
All right. And we've got Josh from the back of the bus. Josh, tell them a little bit about you.
Yeah, so like she said, I'm Josh, back of the bus, one half of back of the bus. I don't know if Marcus is joining today, but we talk about pretty much everything on the culture, discussions about hip hop, sports, politics at times, pretty much everything. We kind of discuss things of the culture through a black lens.
All right. We've got down here towards the bottom, but that doesn't mean that they're not less important. We got She Dreads Me. Tina, tell them about yourself.
Hey, my name is Tina, or She Dreads Me. I also have my legal page called Legally Locked. Content creator. I cover movies, TV shows, but I also cover legal cases as well. Glad to be here with you guys.
All right. And last but certainly not least, we have Blue. Blue, tell them about yourself and your,
Hey,
and
what's
your
up?
channel.
I'm Blue from Blue's House. I basically cover everything that everybody else cover, man. Whether it's movies, music, hip hop, just cultural through a blurred black lens type of situation. Urban. That's how I get down. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Hold on, y'all. Wait a second. Light about to fall on my head. Hold on.
Don't hurt yourself.
Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I noticed it creeping. And I'm like, it's not supposed to be moving. And I'm like, dummy, it's on you. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. All right. So you know your girl here. You know I can't do it. It's a compulsion for me. You hear me? It's a compulsion. I can't start the thing off without what? Good PowerPoint.
Got to.
I can't do it. It's not long because we're gonna talk. But we're gonna be talking about the trial of Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. And shout out to the court illustrator, because every time I see, they must have several, because sometimes he looks like Chris Rock. Sometimes he looks like, he even had one that almost made me think it was Will Smith. Then he had one that looked like the Dennis Haysbert. He had one looking like him. I don't know who these people think they're looking at. I just don't know. All right, here are my trigger warnings. We are going to be talking about things that have to do with the incidents of domestic violence and sexual assault. If you are squeamish about that, y'all can go ahead and log off. But if you or somebody you know needs help, the domestic violence hotline is 1-800-799-7233, and the SA hotline is 1-800-656-4673. Here's my copyright disclaimer. I'm not going to read all of that, but I am going to tell you the views and the opinions expressed in my videos represents my own thoughts and now my panel's thoughts, concerns, analysis. We don't know these folks. We've never met these folks that I know. And these are not statements of facts. These are just opinions. So here's Sean Diddy Combs. He's the one who is on trial. We all know him as what?
Love.
Who do y'all know? Brother Love.
Puffy.
Brother Love. That's
Puffy.
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 That's
Daddy.
Puffy.
That man has several different monikers.
Aliases.
7 different monikers, but this is Sean Diddy Combs, and this is who we're talking about today. He is on trial, and these are the charges against him. Again, shout out to the court illustrator. I don't know who this person is, but it's not looking anywhere close.
He needs an exorcism in that picture.
Oh, they were saying in the courtroom, several people that I followed that were in the courtroom, they were saying that he does that. He will scan, and if he looks at you or is not familiar with you, he's gonna sit and stare at you like, who are you? What? And so I guess they caught him in that type of moment when he was doing this. So here are the counts. Count 1 is racketeering conspiracy. Count 2 is and I got these charges from the superseding indictment. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. He's got 2 counts of that. That's count 2 and count 4. And then count 3 and 5 is transportation to engage in the prostitute. All right. So they have been in court examining and witnesses testifying. Come on. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the judge. Now, how do you pronounce this? Because I will mess his name. Is it Subramanian?
Arun Subramanian.
Subramanian. Okay.
Or just call him Judge Arun. That's what I say, Judge Arun.
I'm gonna call him Judge.
His mama call him Judge.
So
the court call him Judge. I'm gonna call him Judge.
I'm gonna call If your mama name you Daryl, I'm gonna call you Daryl. Let's see. So this is the prosecution team. We have Emily Ann Johnson, Madison Reddick Smizer, Mary Christine Slavic, Meredith Foster, Mitzi Signer, and Maureen Comey. And then on the defense team, we have Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos. Is she related to Mark Garagos?
Yep, that's her daughter. That's his daughter.
Got you. Brian Steele, Alexander Shapiro. Is she related to Ben Shapiro?
Probably. No? Why not?
And then we have Xavier Donaldson, and then down here is just a blurb on who the defense team. I guess it's right here, Pamela. You wrote it, and it's right here. Anyway. Mm-hmm. All right. So these are the witnesses that when I wrote this, these were the witnesses that testified. I didn't put Dawn Richard on. Yeah. Well, she says her name is Richard.
Her name is Dawn Richard.
She's been getting called Don Richard the whole time. Like all of a sudden it's Richard. Okay.
Okay. You know when you get up, you got to be at some point you got to be fancy. So just for each of you, I'll just go down the line and start with you, Lauren. And you can start with any of these witnesses. I guess that's where, or we can just go down the line. Do we want to go down the line on each witness, or do you just want to start wherever you want to start, whoever it sits for you? What are you thinking about the case so far? And what do you think, if any, that any one of these witnesses has been able to help the prosecution meet their burden of proof?
Well, I mean, I think obviously the most important witness is Cassie Ventura, and that's the witness that I've been most focused on. This is the person who's known Sean Combs for 11 years and was in a relationship with him for 11 years. So to me, the case is really built around her. And I'll be candid, I was a little surprised at finding out certain levels of what I would define as consensual activity that I might not agree with, I might not like, I might not partake in, I might not have for the family hour, but I am having some difficulty coming to the conclusion that this defines racketeering and sex trafficking, particularly when a person returns to the same scene of the same place over and over again. And, obviously all of this has to be set up against the backdrop of the power dynamics of the situation. Obviously, Sean Combs being more powerful than Cassie Ventura, and kind of in the same case, same way as in the Weinstein case, where you have an individual who controls the professional lives of people and is lording that over them. And in fact, we do have testimony that goes to that. We're going to pull this video if you don't call him back type thing and all that. So it's hard for me to be comfortable, I'll say, with a wider angle lens with the pattern that I'm seeing. I did major in history at American University, and my history spidey sense is telling me, as a big fan of Ida Wells, that this pattern that we're seeing in public view of Black men being prosecuted for what effectively amounts to kinky sexual activity. Okay, now if we're going to do that and we're opening the door to those things, it would seem to me that there's a lot of rock bands out there that should be prosecuted, starting in the late to beginning of the 1970s. Some of those
Yes,
people who are
indeed.
still alive, Led Zeppelin, and some of these stories are people going on tour for the express purpose of sex. It also opens the door to a nuanced discussion about women who do pursue famous men for sex. That these are discussions that the Me Too movement and liberal quarters in our society do not allow us to have and do not like us to have this level of nuance. But as somebody who grew up in New York, was born in the Bronx, this is a liberal jurisdiction. I do think he will be convicted, even though I am not seeing to the letter of the law the crimes as written down. But when it comes to Black males, that has never mattered in this country. So I am suspicious when I see the row of things that have happened in the last few years. Michael Jackson. I'm not a big fan of, personally, I'm not a big fan of Diddy or Bill Cosby, but Bill Cosby was adjudicated after the statute of limitations had long passed, which was a huge error that ended up with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court flipping his case. In this case, it's just a matter of, in my view, the liberal sort of view from white feminists that you can throw these cases out there and go, okay, wow, that's crazy that he did that. We're going to prosecute you for this. I saw the same thing in the John Majors case, and I was in the courtroom for that. And it was, to me, worse in the John Majors case. There's a growing sense here of we'll throw controversial activity out there, whether it's criminal or not, doesn't matter. We're going to see if it sticks. I wouldn't even mind it so much if, in fact, it was racially balanced. But what I'm seeing is a lot of Black males in courtroom, and then I'm not seeing any white people. And I know that, we know that, there's plenty of white entertainers. There's plenty of white people in sports. There's plenty of people who have sex. Everybody has sex. I mean, so to me, there's an imbalance in the adjudication just in general. But getting back to the specifics of Cassie Ventura for just 1 minute, I did find it surprising, some of the text messages going back and forth. Usually in a trafficking case, you do have to have some element of force, some element of kidnapping, some lack of consent. And I don't see that. And I'm surprised not to see that. Even though I do feel sorry for her, I do feel like she should not have been, subjected to this ridiculous behavior from Sean Combs. She should not have been, in these situations. But is it criminal is the thing that I'll land here, is the thing that I am having trouble with when I read the counts.
All right, Josh.
So before I begin, I want some clarification. I know one of the charges is for the RICO, about how he's using his enterprise or whatever to facilitate some of these criminal charges. Does he have to be accused of everything? Like, do we have to prove that he did sex trafficking, drug distribution, all of that, or is it just one crime?
So under the racketeering, they just need to prove two things to get him on the racketeering. And when you look at the list of things that fall under that RICO stature, it could be bribery, arson, blackmail. They just need two. This is the R. Kelly playbook. They just need two.
From that standpoint alone, I think from the testimony that we've received from Cassie alone, I think there's some proof that there's some crime here and that he's done a lot to kind of hide it through the use of said enterprise. I think a lot of people are also speaking about Cassie in a way that, she clearly at some point wanted to indulge in some of this behavior. I don't think any of that matters in what we're trying to prove against Diddy. I think at some level she's a victim. I don't know to what level she has been included in this situation. I don't know what she likes, but regardless of that, she is a victim, and I think we need to stick to what we're actually trying to prove in this case. Finally, as far as what I have to say, I did listen to what Israel had to say, the hotel employee, and it also seems like he's alleged that there was some bribery. We've seen the assault in the hotel. I think there's just too many cases of clear obviously there's been some kind of case against him in the RICO charge alone that's going to probably give him life. So that's I guess where I start.
All right, Blue.
I don't know, man. I mean, Josh, you make some compelling points. It's just the RICO is what kind of stands out to me. I've yet to, I mean, the RICO was brought in to take down the mob, right? And now it's been used. They used it on teachers. Georgia used it on some teachers, if I recall. You know what I'm saying? Because the teachers was, I guess, doing some tests for the kids or whatever, and they used it on teachers. Like, I just think this RICO thing is getting. What's that?
I said I remember that.
Yeah. I think the RICO thing is getting out of hand, and I personally am not seeing RICO. From what I understand, RICO needs some codees. I don't see no codees anywhere. This is Diddy on trial as a RICO, as him being the RICO. Like, I just don't see that. I understand what Tina said about the actual charges that can get you RICO, which they look, man, they might be able to get them on, but I'm just not seeing it. Even with the Cassie being either complicit in the crimes or being victim of the crimes, I'm 50-50 on that. You know what I'm saying? Even with the hotel, what was his name, Israel, with him saying about the bribery thing, was that a bribe, or was that, hey, Diddy, you since the hotel was messed up, need to pay, and Diddy was like, here go the money. You know what I'm saying? Was it that? Like, I'm looking at all of these things because it was with the testimony, with how the prosecution set it up and how the defense, to me, kind of fumbled a little bit in the beginning, but then came in a little hot at the end of their defense. I'm just not seeing the pieces yet, and this is going to be a long trial. But as of right now, I'm dead in the middle. Like, it's 50-50 to me. I'm not seeing none of the prostitution charge. That is the one that's probably like, yeah, 100. That's going. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get that. All the other charges, I just don't know. I'm waiting for a shoe to drop on some of the harder charges.
So to confirm, the one thing that you're looking for in the RICO is other codees in this case?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, obviously,
and I could be wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. I just never seen a RICO, solo dolo RICO. I've never seen one.
Right. Yeah, no, I think we got other, testimonials to go through and other witnesses to come forward. Yeah. I think one of them mentioned one of his label execs, Harv Pierre, in their testimony or what they've already said.
I think he's locked up right now, actually, I think.
Nah, he out.
He out?
Is it? So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's probably going to be more to come and more names that are probably going to be, brought forth.
Tina?
So, y'all know I was Team Majors. That's my boys. But I was always one of the ones who was like, listen, when you put a white woman on that stand and she gets to crying and pointing.
Well, they did a pregnant, ambiguous woman this time.
and when you look at the law, no matter how we felt about the Jonathan Majors case, when you just look at the law, what they have to take and look at in that jury room, that's the problem. And that is why RICO is so dangerous, because all they need is 2 instances of him and somebody else in his organization doing arson, kidnapping, bribery, blackmail. They just need 2 of those things, 2 predicate acts. So this is I call this the Lil Wody effect from the YSL trial. Are these co-defendants about to get up here and tell the truth, or are they about to get up here and say, nah, I don't remember the Kelsey affair, I don't know what happened? If you get somebody on that stand that says,
but Woody wasn't a codee, he was just the witness.
He was just a witness.
But why was he a witness? He was given a proffer agreement, right? He was given an agreement.
Yeah.
His co-defendants have proffer agreements. That's why there ain't no co-defendants. Everybody finna get up there and testify against him. Now, are they gonna tell the truth? Or are they gonna say, I don't remember, I don't recall, the Kelsey effect from Tory Lanez? If one person gets on that stand and corroborates that arson, and if someone else gets on that stand and corroborates the bribery of that Cassie hotel tape, because he didn't pay that guard, he paid somebody else.
Yeah.
Or if someone gets up and corroborates obstruction of justice, or if somebody says he kidnapped them. They only need 2 for the RICO. That's it.
Right.
They gonna get
According
him
to
on.
Dawn, that already happened, didn't it? Didn't she already say like Diddy told her that people go missing where he's from or something?
Yeah,
like
but it's still here. You know what I'm saying? Like just you saying that. And I know we're talking letter of the law, but kidnapping, the thing about kidnapping is all I got to do is prevent you from leaving the room, and that's considered kidnapping. You know what I'm saying?
All they need is 2 of those.
So that's the bad thing about it.
And as far as the transportation, he's cooked on that. He done. He's done on the transportation of the prostitution. Yeah. Because if you listen to Cassie's testimony, we did it in Miami. We called somebody out in LA. We called somebody out. He cooked. And she pretty much testified that it was a performance-based tier payment. So if the guy comes and if he can't like get aroused, oh, we only gonna pay you this much. But if you can get aroused, we gonna pay you this much. I got
a question on that because I was looking at Cassie made it seem like they were doing porn. I don't know if y'all caught that. Yeah. Like it was
a production, yeah.
Like it was she made it seem like this was a production. Now was this and you know, Diddy is a real, you know, a performer. He's a showman. Could they go in the argument of this is what I don't have to release porn to say that I'm shooting porn. At least I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But could that be a defense that they want to take the road and route of? Because right now we're seeing everything being thrown at the wall. Hey, bipolar, I'm a crackhead, I'm this, I'm that. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to Diddy and everything that's going on. So,
but this is the thing. Were you paying them to come be actors in your porn tape, or were you paying them to come do the freak offs and you sitting over there pleasuring yourself? I don't think that's how porn production works. That the person over there pleasuring themselves while they film. I don't know. I don't think that's how that works. The light is a guru, you know.
Hey, in today's world, we don't look OnlyFans. I don't know.
The charge is sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. So if we're getting into, I'm just going to say it. If we're getting into the definition of somebody crossing state lines because you called them on the phone to have sex, that puts a lot of people in play.
A lot of people. Yeah.
That puts the entire pornography industry in play, it would seem to me, right? Yeah. And so I'm just saying, I'm looking as
hold on, Lauren. I want to make sure I'm following you. So are we talking about the sex trafficking or the transportation? Because I think those are 2 different things.
I'm talking about listening for proof in Cassie's testimony. Now, maybe I missed somebody else's testimony. You let me know. But in listening to her testimony, I'm trying to find force, fraud, and coercion. And I'm not sure I found that. I do think that the situation she was in was ridiculous and disgusting, but I don't know that she was forced to participate. That is one of the problems, I think, of this case, although I will say it because we're dealing with a Black male in the United States and in a very liberal jurisdiction that is in New York. Their case closure and prosecution rate is through the roof. It's like 95%. He is going to be found guilty. And he's going to be found guilty because, just as in the Majors case, when things go into the media that are pretrial, you know, publicity related things that clearly you would have to be living on the moon not to know about. Obviously, it was disgusting that he beat Cassie Ventura in a hotel lobby like a dog. All right. Everybody saw that. I wish he could be prosecuted for that. Quite frankly, that was domestic violence. That was a aggravated assault. That was a lot of stuff going on there. But that's not one of the charges that we're looking at. But my view of it is it doesn't matter because, in fact, even if she acquiesced to all of if we had text messages of her saying, yeah, I do want to be there for the next freak off, whatever, I still think he would get convicted because we are in an age, particularly now, of the whole legal setup is that there is no space in this conversation for a woman saying, yes, I did want to be there, and suddenly the guy is innocent. Like, it doesn't work that way. Their argument that coercion and grooming, subjective though those terms may be, is the reason we're here. Coercion is extremely subjective. by the way, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Women in this moment, unlike what we saw in the late 60s, by the way, where we were told by the women's movement that we could have sex just like the guys could and do whatever they want, what we wanted, and before marriage and this and that. Well, it turns out that is flipped on its head now, because under the laws now, we are seeing a lot of moves of, look, if you were groomed and she was 19, we're hearing a lot of stuff about she was 19 and she was groomed and he was in control, then it doesn't matter what she decided or not, he's guilty. That's what this is.
Yeah, and it didn't start till she was 21. Their relationship didn't start till she was 21. She got the deal at 19. Did she get the deal at 19? She got the deal at 19, but her and Diddy didn't start until they was 21. Till she was 21.
Right there. Let's pause right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because my flabbers were gasted when she said that she had a 10 album deal.
Mm-hmm.
But but
only heard one song.
Hey, but keep that. That may fall under force, fraud, or coercion.
But see, I don't, and it could, but I don't like that. Me giving you a 10 album deal, right? And you take it. I'm not coercing you into right, but I'm saying the way that they're gonna, like you just said, that could fall under that. I'm pretty sure they're gonna present it that way, like, oh, he coerced her. He might have brought up the deal. Hey, you can't go nowhere. I got 10 out. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that, because it's like when you sign the deal, even when I gave you the deal, I wasn't looking to do the freak off, or I wasn't necessarily looking to do the freak offs with you. So
I didn't bring you into the world of the freak offs.
You might have got and that's another thing. You might have got introduced to that, right? You get introduced to that through me, but that don't mean I coerced you into doing it. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm 50-50 on it, because
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, because Cassie got up there and she told her story, right? And I'm glad that she got all of that out, because I think she really needed to get up there and get all that out, especially in front of him. But the story that she told to me was, sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't, right? And as just a regular operating person, not Diddy, but just a regular operating person, there's confusion in some of that. You know what I'm saying? Because let's say that night, let's say she was into some of that BDSM type stuff, right? And she is walking around with lip bead or blackened eye or something like that. Somebody see that, like, dang, Diddy done beat you know what I'm saying? So now it looks like I'm beating you up, but no, this is what we do in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if all of that was said from Cassie. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if the prosecution, or of course they're not going to ask those questions. I don't know if the defense, because from what I understand, who was that who was doing the questioning from the defense?
Estavio.
Yeah, she did to me, especially that first day of questioning Cassie. I think she did a horrible job, because I think she was trying to get everything in on the record instead of setting up a proper timeline. You know what I'm saying? And it was just confusing to me listening. But that's the sexual relationship or whatever that Diddy and Cassie had. It's a step beyond me in understanding. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if there's coercion. I don't know if it's any of that involved. I agree with LVB. I don't know if that's involved. I really don't.
Yeah. I think this is the good thing about his lawyers now. He got a team of lawyers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not pro Diddy, but I love that they set the stage to say, listen, this is about domestic violence, because now that's all people are talking about. But I think we're missing the point that the domestic violence can be perceived as force. It's force.
Yes, no, I'm not missing that. I understand.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying like the zeitgeist. They're like, he just keeps beating her. But this is not about domestic violence. That's an element of force.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The 10 record deal is, to me, a form of coercion. You're putting leverage on somebody to do something in a business, what's supposed to be a business related setting. It does remind me exactly of the Weinstein case. He was leveraging people. You ain't getting this role unless you sleep with me, was the quid pro quo of that. That was completely improper and crazy. These women shouldn't have had to deal with that. He destroyed the careers of several women. I think we can argue in this case that Sean Combs destroyed the singing career of Cassie Ventura. But the complication becomes, you then engage in an 11-year relationship with this guy, in which you are coming back and forth into things that you now say were painful to you, but you did this for 11 years. So this is not a 2-year or 6-month type of thing. This is an 11-year type of thing. She won't bring herself in present day to say that she hates him.
Right.
There's some complicating factors, and I understand that human nature can be very complicated, but just in looking at the charges, I do think they're going to get there, though. They're going to get there. They're going to get to. Now, it is strange. A lot of these attorneys are saying online, and they're absolutely right, to have a RICO case with a conspiracy case with no conspirators. He's the only single conspirator. That has never been. See, these are the things that happens when you got black people around. You start seeing things you've never seen before. And the Cosby case, it was the adjudication after the SOL was the Cosby thing. There's always something that you see when it's somebody black you've never seen before. In this case, it's a conspiracy case of one. I tell you, finding a current attorney that's seen that.
So then we admit that she's obviously been in this relationship with Diddy for 11 years. Does that not implicate her as well as a Cody in facilitating some of the sex trafficking?
Yeah, for sure. But guess what?
Sure. Even though she may be a victim, she can still play a part in this enterprise.
That's the key. That is the key.
I don't know if I go that far.
Look, but listen, let me tell you.
I'm with you, Josh. I hear that. I said that. I said, shouldn't she be part of the conspiracy?
But this is where his defense team was trying to be cute, and to me they messed up because they were trying to set it up like you were just this lovesick girl. You just wanted to be his main girl, right? You just wanted to do this. He never wanted that for you. He never wanted you to be his woman.
They should have went in harder.
No, but listen, but this is where they messed up at. She said, and they struck it, so they can't use it. She said, yeah, I did want to be his girlfriend, but instead I felt like his sex worker. So is she a sex worker? Or was she his girlfriend? Because if she is a sex worker, then there's definitely going to be force, fraud, and coercion. And you're now taking your sex worker across state lines. You're beating your sex worker. This is no different than a pimp and a prostitute. Like
I was just going to say, it just sounded like a pimp and his prostitute. Even when she talked about it and set it up and everything, because she said it and she kept saying it. I don't know if you all caught it. I'm a singer, I'm an actress, but freak offs became my what? My job.
Wow.
So we talked about obviously the sexual trafficking. We talked about some of the violence. We talked about even bribery. We didn't talk about the numerous drugs and money that they found at some of his places. They found like $9,000, ketamine, and all sorts of other drugs too. So like, I feel like some of these things lead to, okay, he might get caught on the RICO at the very least.
Well, I think it's clear the money is to pay the prostitutes because like the male escort said, you get paid on tiers. So.
Well, why not charge that? Why isn't that one of the charges?
It is.
It is.
Okay. Transportation and the
prostitution.
Okay. I mean, I think in the Jeffrey Epstein case, we had Ghislaine Maxwell get charged as a part of Jeffrey Epstein, which I thought, frankly, was a little strange. Why should she have gotten prosecuted for what he was masterminding? But that does come close to the argument that Pam just brought up about, or no, Josh just brought up about, is she a partner in this? I don't know that that's going to fly. I think
but that's where Maxwell messed up. She should have took the deal. Cassie took the deal because when you're looking at the law of the land, Cassie would technically be a co-conspirator with him because you're the one that's flying, making the call, booking the escorts. It's illegal. You can't do that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
just like and we talk about the one man RICO. Ghislaine was technically like pretty much a one man RICO because Epstein
he was gone.
I mean,
I was gonna say with that too, because she was the one. She did testify. I was the one that went to Backpage and Craigslist and all those things to find the escorts. I was the one that chose. We sat down and we talked about which one was going to be the one that they liked. And, they had the Jules and the, the Phillips guy and a couple of other people. They were the favorites. So the favorites were, they flew them in and out of the thing. And also one of the things that she said that hit home to me was the money exchanged. Who exchanged the money? She was always the person that was the one that was actually doing the payment. She may have gotten the money from Diddy, but it was from her hands to the escort's hands, and that was a very slippery hand at that.
Mm-hmm. And it was his money. That's also how RICO ties into this. You are using money from Bad Boy Entertainment to fund this lifestyle. And this is where they're going to kind of get him at. It's not just Cassie. There's another victim. Oh, so you have a pattern of doing this. This is what you do. You go and get with these women and you introduce them to this lifestyle, and then you make them pay the prostitutes. You make them hook everything up. That's why it's a RICO case, because you're telling everybody what to do. And you sit back like I ain't touched nothing.
I got a question. I got a question. I know, Diddy's business has been out there for a while. How did the feds get involved in this is my question.
They read Cassie's
was it
lawsuit.
was it the book?
The lawsuit.
Was it the lawsuit or the memoirs that was
the memoir never came out? It's the lawsuit. The lawsuit.
The lawsuit.
I did a video when the lawsuit hit. I said they finna get him on RICO. You go back and watch it. The same day it dropped, I said he's gonna have RICO charges because the lawsuit read like a RICO case.
So let me put this in here because we're going to continue. But here's the thing I did that I wanted to kind of put out there and just to get you all's opinion, because sometimes it's just me. I think these certain things. Now that we, again, we found out so much more about Diddy's sexual proclivities than we really truly wanted to know. And the time, the time it took to get these productions underway, because that's what it was. It was a production. You had to hire the escorts. You had to find the hotel or the home to have the stuff in. These things were marathon things where you had to have the drugs were going to fuel you to be able to do what you needed to do. There was, because they were tearing that hotel room up regardless of what we say.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the production, and he was taping. They were filming these things. They were doing all of these things. So now that we understand what the freak off actually was, now when I go back to look at all these other lawsuits that have put, and I'm not, now don't mishear me, because a lot of y'all like to fight with me and mishear me and think I'm saying something when I'm not. Now that we understand what those freak-offs were, and I'm not saying that these people that have put these lawsuits in, I am not saying that in any instance that they were harmed. Now that we understand what they are, does that put less or more weight on these other lawsuits? Because and the reason why I'm asking is because I looked at all the time. Now, Diddy is notorious for having assistants that are so good that they can literally go into a business deal and negotiate on his behalf. He is been known for that. There have been videos making the band, all of those things, that he has very competent assistants. So these freak-offs take time. You talking about, what were they saying? Anywhere between 24 and 72 hours with 1 or 2 weeks of recovery time and all this other stuff.
Boy.
Yeah. Does that have to put the weight on these other lawsuits and what they were trying to say? Because the public, the zeitgeist thought, oh, if you went to the white party, then he was going to pick you to the after party. And then after the after party, he was going to pick you to the hotel lobby. And then one of the select few in the hotel lobby was going to get up to go to the hotel room and get into the freak off.
Yeah, you know what?
That don't seem like.
I resist the notion that in the year 2025, with people like Hugh Hefner and Warren Beatty in our history in this country, that is Sean Combs that invented the sex party and the group sex party. Like, I'm not saying that, it may not have been on another level, but once again, I don't think I've ever seen a case where this level of sexual detail has been revealed this widely. Now, that might just be the time that we live in with regard to social media, proliferation. Obviously, the YouTube channels and all that didn't exist 15 years ago. But there is no way.
R. Kelly?
Well, R. Kelly, we had certainly sexual detail, but I don't know that it was to this. I mean, we're finding out levels of detail that, once again, if you want to talk about R. Kelly, well, let's talk about that. Okay. So it happens to be 2 black males that we have in a federal courtroom, and we're finding out all this sexual detail. I mean, I am deeply suspicious, as somebody who's worked in media, of white media. Right. They're making money off of this type of subject matter, They're making money off the click-through rates. They're making money off the broadcasts. The attorneys, the trial attorneys, and I work with trial attorneys on a fairly regular basis. They're making tons of cash off the adjudications. Now we're lowering the bar on consent. Now we're lowering the bar on coercion. That ups the number of cases. Yeah. When I see somebody like Smokey Robinson at 85 years old, who's been in front of our face for 60 years before I was born, now all of a sudden he's some wild rapist. Now, I don't know. I read the case, but when I see somebody say, 10 times and 20 times, yes, I am suspicious. Okay. Well, we've never heard anything about that. See, with Cosby, we in the streets had heard stuff about Cosby. We ain't heard nothing about no Smokey Robinson.
Smokey the only one who got away from that time period.
So, I mean, what we're defining as assault has changed. What we're defining as consent has changed. I've seen videos where people have said, and look, we can have that debate, but we've said things like, he begged me. One of the Russell Simmons alleged victims claimed that because he begged me for sex and I gave in, that was rape. That's how she defined rape. Okay. All right. I mean, if we're doing that, I'm just saying, when you're lowering that bar, I do wonder why the only
I see where you're going.
Looking at are R. Kelly and Sean Combs. I mean, it's I'm not saying you're right. I'm saying
I think it's us. Like you said, it's us.
It's definitely us.
Because let me tell you why. The Abercrombie and Fitch case is just as disgusting. It's nasty.
Remember I brought that up.
But we don't care about it. But
remember I brought that up like a while ago when it first came. I said the Abercrombie and Fitch, they just overlooked that.
Away.
No, they not overlooked. They roped up. They roped up.
Didn't he walk on an insanity defense?
It's three. It's three of them. You got the CEO. They say he got dementia. Okay. And it's two other people. He got his co-conspirators. They still like capped up with it. Okay. But that we're not talking about the Abercrombie and Fitch case.
Or even other cases that have been brought up from this New York Adult Survivors Act or whatever. Like there's been cases brought up against Jimmy Iovine and Interscope Records. There's been cases brought up against City of New York workers and cops, NYPD officers. So like, I think it has more to do with the fact that we've seen Diddy in our face for the last 30 years. And now we all want to know, okay, what was happening in the background?
Okay.
Like we care so much about what was happening because we've heard some of these things. We heard about the white parties, but now it's like an unveiling of some of the things that we didn't get to see. Like you mentioned that Bill Cosby, like we knew some of the things, but like obviously you didn't know everything. Maybe you were a little bit curious about some of the things that were going on. Meanwhile, we don't know the CEO of Abercrombie, or we don't know some of these other people to even give a shit about some of those.
Right. That's a good point.
But it's nasty. It's bad.
Yeah, I don't like that. Josh, I don't like that. I don't like
it either.
It only happens with us though. Right?
No, it's not. There are cases of white people getting caught up with it. We just not talking about it.
No, I'm saying that is broadcasted with. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It only
that is you know that is by design. In certain media, if you look, because I remember being in college and I remember doing that little master's. Anyway,
you covered up, Pam. Just to let you know.
Thank you. We had to watch the news. Some of us were assigned to watch the morning news. Some of us were assigned to watch the midday news. Some of us was assigned to watch the evening news. So on the evening news is where all of the stuff, the more salacious stuff would be shown. Right. And anytime you talked about a white man who, let's say a white man who had pruned somebody off the timeline, when his picture comes up with him and his family. Now, mind you, he could have pruned his whole family from the timeline, but his picture comes up with the family.
Right.
And then you always have the 2 or 3 little persons that come behind. I can't believe that happened. You mean this happened in our neighborhood?
Like the BTK killer, who was the what was he, the troop leader or something like that?
Yeah, he was a troop leader. He was a dog catcher.
And the community and all of that. Yeah.
Yes. They'll say, oh, I can't believe that would happen.
Right.
And then you turn around, and then if there is a black man that committed a murder, you're only going to see the picture of him in his mugshot picture. Yeah. And then you're going to, if there's going to be any soundbite, it's going to be his mother or someone in his family say, That's my baby. He wasn't like that. This is my baby. And so it's a different way that they put those out. And also when the news media is talking about whatever happened in regards to the black man, they always use very negative and type wording. With the white guy, he was a loving family member, and this was just he just snapped kind of situation. But with
I think they're just playing to the audience, to be honest with you. I think there are so many racist people in America that they want something to confirm their biases about black people. So they include those words in there. So yes, I do think it's fucked up that the media does that, but I think it's a product of
America,
what they're serving. America.
Yeah. See, they don't want to hear about Abercrombie and Fitch. They don't want to hear about the clothing line that they love and adore. And they don't want to hear about the fact that the people who were running that clothing line and stuff like that were just out here doing all kinds of crazy and nasty stuff. They don't want to hear that. That's just an anomaly. But Diddy, baby, we know Diddy did it. I mean, even my aunt is about 90 years old talking about Diddy did it.
I mean, it even works against people who we don't think about all the time. Like, I think when the Jonathan Majors case came out, we all loved him for the actor that he was, but he wasn't out here all like that. But we all cared because we all fed into that, and it became
the biggest thing going at the moment. He was the biggest thing going.
But it's not like he was out here super public all the time.
Oh no. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Diddy's in everybody's music video, but Jonathan Majors was private for the most part. But we all came and checked out the case because we wanted to know what was going on with Jonathan Majors. Yeah. But then there's other cases like Pam, what was the case that we were just talking about recently when we talked about Diddy, but when we talked about Blake Lively? The Blake Lively case isn't getting anywhere as much publicity as the Jonathan Majors case did.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So it's just little things like that.
That's a good point.
What do you all think about when? Did you think that this was going into the prosecution trying to prove a certain thing about the case when they mentioned Suge Knight? Because when they mentioned Suge Knight and him running out of the thing for Suge Knight, I couldn't understand. Was that was that salaciousness, or was there a point that they were trying to prove through that? Or
I would say more so to show that he's a dangerous man. And is capable of doing anything. That's what I think it is. And everybody knows the feud that Puff and Suge have had since, a long since the 90s. So, I mean, me being real big in hip hop, I got a quite little chuckle out of it because both of those guys are now locked up. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, full circle. They both locked up. It's crazy, but that's what I think it was, just to show how dangerous Puffy could be. Because remember, they did that right before they went into the Kid Cudi car situation. So
it's further creating this narrative of, once again, the Rico. Oh, Suge in town, Cassie, get my gun. We finna go get him, and she's like,
go ride on him.
That's the mob boss mentality. They're trying to paint him as like. You in your sleep, you waking the girl up out of her sleep, and they're gonna get people to corroborate that. They're gonna put bodyguards on the stand and say, "Hey, he did tell."
What if they do that and they totally do a 180 on that?
That's why I said they could do a little woody. They could get up there and just be like, "Nah, I wanted to go get Suge. Puff ain't tell me to do it," or I wanted to blow up Kid Cudi's car. Puff ain't tell me to do it. Right. That's why I've always said Cassie ain't the most important person. It's
she was the narrative because we already got that video out. So I know they put her up there because she was already she was 8 months. She was about to pop any day. So
the co-conspirators and the male sex workers. The male sex workers are the most important people because the prosecution are going to put more sex workers on that says she was trying to leave and he beat her up. His team are going to put sex workers on that says, hey, she enjoyed it. We were having a great time. So
because that first sex worker did kind of, my bad, Josh, did kind of go into that a little bit. Like, no, she was enjoying it. We was, she was telling me what to do. Diddy really wasn't involved other than, when telling us how to do the urination situation. But you know what I'm saying? Other than that, Diddy was hands off and was just enjoying the show. So
Yeah.
Well, you had to follow his script though, because you remember he had the massage. They had to do the massage, and then they had to do the role playing, and then they got into all of the other stuff. And he kept saying, "Y'all ain't oily enough. Y'all ain't glistening enough."
That's crazy.
But you got. That's why I said this case is tricky, because he also said Diddy was in there beating that girl too. So it's like, this is the question: can I consent today and not consent tomorrow?
Most definitely.
Yeah, it's funny though, whether consent or not, it's like, to me, it's a crime no matter what. You like, if you commit a crime, you commit a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not the next day you said, well, you committed a crime on me yesterday, but I'm agreeing to the crime you committed tomorrow.
Yeah.
A crime was still committed the day before,
yeah.
right? So I am, sympathetic to that, because I do think that despite what I said before about, wow, she stayed around for 11 years, it's still a crime. A crime is still a crime. He should not be allowed. You should not be allowed to abuse people in a certain way and then get away with it just because the person hung around for 11 years. It still remains a crime. So
I agree with you. But I got a quote. Who is the crime? Who determines the crime? What you saying that now? Because now it's got me thinking, like, if I go let's say I rob a bank, and then the bank says, nah, that's cool. Is it, you know what I'm saying? Like,
the state
who
has
determines?
So the state has brought a case against them. It is Hong Kong's versus the United States. I mean, so they are trying to get to beyond a reasonable doubt. If all they really need is 2 jurors in there or 1 juror in there to of course there was 1,000. I know nobody missed the fact that there was 1,000 Batson challenges, right? We got to get all the black people off the jury. Okay, all right, because one of them might.
The defense brought it up. The defense brought it up. Hey, judge.
All y'all black people know Diddy. All y'all know Diddy. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
But hey, it still ended up good. It's like 8 black people on there. And
yeah.
But this is my thing too. I'm like, why do y'all want black people on here so bad? There's so many black people that don't like Diddy. Y'all think just because he black that there's so many black people that don't like him. So
So Tina, to your point about having one of them switch on Diddy, like a bodyguard or something like that, is there not a case against one of the bodyguards too, if I'm not mistaken? And then isn't there a bodyguard on Vlad doing all sorts of interviews?
Yeah,
talking about all sorts of different, like, there's probably some bodyguards willing to flip on him. And I guess to the point,
Gene just did a video.
Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. He's going to capitalize on some of this clout. The point is, all it takes is some cases against some of these bodyguards themselves to get them to have vested interest to flip.
Who was the bodyguard that watched him beat her down in the car with it? Okay, that's one bodyguard, right?
It's Roger Bonds.
Oh, was it Roger Bonds? I thought it was D-Rock. Is Roger Bonds?
I think we talking about 2 separate scenarios, because D-Rock has passed away, right?
Yeah.
D-Rock is gone. I'm almost 100% sure Roger Bonds is going to be testifying in this trial.
Because I want to hear from,
and Cruz.
I want to hear from the
50 say Cruz was everywhere.
Cruz for sure. He's testifying next week. Yep. That was the one. Cassie said she ran away one day. This is in her lawsuit. I ran away, went to Florida. Cruz calls me on the phone and say, if you don't get back, your album ain't coming out. If you don't, Diddy looking for you. So that is the RICO. Diddy's not calling her and say call back. He flipping out, tell her get her ass back here. He telling other people to do it.
And don't forget, in that lawsuit, they talked about there was a lawyer that called her.
They probably was charged, and they probably said, listen, we're going to charge you, or you better tell us everything you know. So guess what I'm going to do? Tell you everything I know.
Right.
So I think next week it should start to solidify for if whatever is supposed to solidify for the prosecution is going to solidify, and whatever Diddy them are going to do to poke as many holes as they need to do. I think we'll see it more so out of other witnesses, because again, we still have because what they can't find the one victim, or the victim is hiding, but we still,
She said she's not gonna show up.
I agree with Tina. They done paid that girl some money, and she
or she do show up. It's gonna be that might be that one, Tina.
Yeah, that's why I said leave her where she at. Don't call her. Let her go.
She might be that one to come in and throw the whole monkey wrench in that case. Yep.
But they've got a couple of more. They've got at least They had four victims.
I read 5. I don't know if they're gonna call all of
Yeah, I
them
don't think they're gonna. I
because
know
when
one
they
of
get
them.
the opening statements, they only mention 2 victims.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I think if I just wish, and this is just a wish, because like I said, I can't tell the tone, the cadence, or nothing because you're having to rely on somebody's testimony. And shout out to
Inner City.
Inner City.
Yeah.
Because I have to shoot him a few dollars just so that he can go to the pretty little Korean lady so she can massage his fingers, because I know them fingers and hands are needing of a massage, because
he got to have an enterprise, because he be tweeting about 3 cases at once. I'm like,
yeah,
you got to have people.
He got a Rico going on. He got a Rico.
So I have those questions. Let me see. There was a couple of other questions I wanted us to go over. The drug issues, both of them Cassie on the stand mentioning that that they're addicts. How does that play into all of the stuff that's going on? Because I do remember reading the defense was trying to say, well, the DV happened because he was coming off of drugs. How do you think, as far as for the defense, how do you think them, number one, saying that he is someone who commits DV and plus he was a drug addict, how do you think that those things help his defense?
I don't think it's going to help him. The dynamic of the whole thing is that, let's be real. This is up against the backdrop of Black men do not get any sympathy for anything. Nobody cares if you on drugs, if your parents beat you, all that. That's all for women. That's for us. We're the ones. Ooh, we were groomed, we were coerced, like, men don't get that at all. And I get why that is from a historic standpoint. Obviously, there is patriarchy, there is misogyny, there is the dynamic of men typically controlling relationships and being the one to ask us out first. There's all that socialization. So I get where that comes from. But in the moment of presenting this to a jury, I don't think the defense is going to have any luck with saying, well, he was on drugs. So this is not going to be Robert Downey Jr. That's for white people. This whole, he's on drugs, so everything's forgiven. That's for white people. That doesn't happen for us. And name me a case where it has happened. In the music business, and I've met a fair amount of celebrities, never met Sean Combs, never been in the room with Sean Combs or anything else like that. But I've met a lot of celebrities, and quite frankly, my view of it is that they live in sort of the same universe of, we can sort of do whatever, whether it's drugs or anything else. They have the money to do it, white, black, whatever, rock and roll, R&B, doesn't matter, whatever. Okay, but I just think that he's going to get no sympathy. She is going to get the sympathy. They're probably going to have some sort of, on the prosecution side, some discussion about consent and drugs, because typically if someone's on drugs or they are intoxicated,
there is no consent. Yeah.
There is no consent. So
yeah, I had a question about that too. I had it in my notes. I'm like, can she consent if she's
right?
And the way
how does that work on the other end too, though, Tina? Like, how is, what I'm saying? If like we both inebriated, if we both zonked out of our minds, there is no consent on either end. Is there a cancellation going on, or what happened? You know what I'm saying? Because we never really, in cases like that, we never really weed through that situation. If they're both addicts, they both went on a bender, they both got together, and then she woke up, oh, I never consented to that. And he might blame, well, shit, I don't even know what happened. I ain't consenting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Where does one start? Where does one end? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we talked about, she testified that she wanted to take the Special K because the Special K helped her disassociate with what was going on. So, and that's why I was trying to get to what do we think that how the drugs played in? Because at some point, if you are, if you're taking and asking for the drugs and all this other stuff, and then everybody in there is a little bit of,
yeah. I think they're trying their best to help him. I think it helps a little bit because the prosecution is trying to say, you were beating her because of the freak offs. They're gonna say no, he was beating her because he was high. It had nothing to do with the freak offs. He's that they brought the bipolar. No, he wasn't beating her to drag her back to the freak offs. He was high out of his mind.
Right.
They're kind of splitting hairs with that.
Yeah,
I think that the defense is cause as much confusion as possible. And I think that's why they might be all over the place like that. It's just let me just confuse the hell out of the jury.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And we'll because I don't even know what tactic you take to really defend Diddy in this because of that tape. You know, that perp walk was so damning that they did on Diddy. I don't know how you rehabilitate that to even defend it. That's why they came out. Yeah, Diddy beat the hell out of girl. We know that. Y'all know we saw the tape already. That's not what we're here for. But the jury's like, nah, he trash, man. I don't care what you show me. I'm ready to convict now. You know what I'm saying? I'm just in it for the story now. I just want to hear the details, but I'm ready to convict now. And I think that's really the heart. Yeah.
Which is why you leaked that stuff pre-trial. I mean, these things are not accidental. You know, in Major's case, they leaked the Molyneux witnesses to the New York Times. I mean, effectively, that's what happened. I mean, so the idea that, that's just whoops, we just happened to give that to Rolling Stone. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're building a case on charges. I mean, if it was domestic violence, obviously this case would be a slam dunk. The case would be over. On video. I mean, so I guess it's outside the statute of limitations. I happen to think it's completely disgusting, just like everybody else who's seen it. I mean, there's nobody that's going to watch that video. I don't care who you are. You don't need to be into music or anything else. There's no one who's going to watch that video and not come away with it with a reaction of disgust. It is crazy. It is craziness. And then like an idiot, of course, he lies about it. So you've got the fact that, okay, this guy will do anything to anybody and then lie about it in front of everybody's face. At least he had a little bit of sense to come back and apologize, make an apology video, but that doesn't wipe away with the video. And when you're, again, I mean, in his cohort, you can't get away with this stuff. I mean, you just can't. So I just think that his best defense is for his lawyers to get up and throw some objections out there, throw some rulings out there that they can appeal on, because they're going to lose this. I'm convinced they're going to lose. So you got to have some appeals. You got to do some objecting and have the judge make a ruling. And then, that ruling you made, we're appealing that. Like, that's the best shot that I think they've got. Maybe an insanity defense. They might want to think about that with the drug thing. Maybe
they tried it. They tried it.
They tried it. Okay. They got to figure. I know they tried the mistrial situation. I read. I don't know if it was actually done by them or whatever, but they got to figure something out. This is a tricky one. This is.
I think he gonna have some good defenses, right? Okay, so what he's gonna say for the transportation of prostitution, he's gonna say those were not prostitutes. If you go to their website, it says they're escorts. We were just flying the guys in just to chill, to drink. We invited them to the white party. I wasn't flying him out to have sex, but if it led to that, it led to it. So that's how they're gonna try to get around the transportation of prostitution. The sex trafficking is, I wasn't sex trafficking. These were my women. I were taking them to Barbados. They had Gucci. They had Chanel. This wasn't sex trafficking. And the RICO, that's the tough one. It depends on what these employees say. If those employees get up there and said, he made me go get the gun, he made me go drag Cassie back, he broke Cassie's nose, and I had to take her to the private plastic surgeon. They're going to say, they was doing that on all their volition. They wanted to get paid. So he has a little wiggle room. Is there one person on the jury that's going to believe him and mistrial it? Possible.
On the prostitution thing that you just said, if they were just hanging out and you paid to hang out and then y'all did have sex, isn't that still prostitution?
I don't think so.
That's escort.
I don't think so.
I can pay you for a date all day long. Now, if it leads to sex, it leads to sex. But that's the legal loophole around.
How does that work though? Like, at what point do we stop hanging out and there was still a transaction made for you to come?
I've already made the transaction. I paid you to come to the.
I paid you to come
to the party. Yeah, I paid you to come chill as my escort.
Because I can open an escort business. Hey, you can fly these ladies out. They'll go sit with you courtside. They'll walk with you on red carpets. I'm just coming to escort.
That's the oldest loophole in the book. They've been doing that for the longest.
Now, if it leads to something else, hey, you paid for her to come chill with you. So that's going to be his defense. The problem is it's the pattern. No, you keep doing this.
Right.
You keep, flying them out and paying them for X. You
Right.
know what you're doing.
Then the problem comes in too because they testified that, like you said, they had a 3 or 4 tier thing about how they had to perform. If one person didn't wet up on the chest, then
Mhm.
you didn't get paid your money. If you didn't do
Game tape.
Yeah, the other piece that kind of reminds me
You
of
lost
that
Pam?
is the Deshaun Watson scenario, right?
Hmm.
Where you are in a professional, supposedly situation with people doing massages. You froze, Pam. You want to go?
am I frozen?
Yeah, you
Oh,
froze.
you're
And
good now.
you just unfroze. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I saw it spinning, but as long as I kept hearing y'all, I was okay.
Yeah, you froze. You back though. I was just gonna
Okay.
say with Deshaun Watson, it was the same sort of thing where these are professional visits, but this massage leads to sex, but we're transacting money for the massage, but we're not really transacting money for the sex. What is that, right? And he, of course, gets sued by Tony Busby, plaintiff's attorney, Tony Busby again, and of course has to pay out $200,000 per person to I think it was 15 people. So I mean,
Yeah.
was it consensual? Apparently, it actually was. Some of these people were chasing him down at his house. It didn't matter. You still are busted. So I don't know if they're going to get to beyond a reasonable in some of these. I just think that there's enough. With everything taken in a package, I think he's in huge trouble. I think on an appeal he might have a shot, but you'd have to get the perfect judge or something like that.
Yeah.
And then
It's the
at some other,
co-conspirators. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say, at some other level, is there not a case to be made about the culture of flying women out specifically for things like that?
But that's cool.
Diddy belongs to that.
You can fly them out. It's the problem of the force, fraud, and coercion. That's the sex
But then
trafficking.
it gets but even with that, Pam, it gets tricky, right? Being celebrity status, right, and moving around and doing things like that. If I fly said girl that I want to court to my location, that would be the start of the trafficking. Now, I haven't officially crossed the finish line yet with that. Then, as soon as I, engage in an sex act with her and possibly give her some money, right, because she's my girl, that's the gray area.
But it has to have force, fraud, or coercion with it. Those are the 3 elements of sex trafficking. You have to have force, fraud, or coercion.
This is real. Now we're getting into subjective language because coercion is really subjective. I understand force. When I hear force, I'm thinking physical, but that's not generally what happened here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And coercion is all over the place. I mean, if Lenny Kravitz, I'm a big Lenny Kravitz fan. He was at the Knicks game last night. If he called me right now and said, fly to Denver, I'd fly to Denver, right? All right. But is he coercing me to fly to Denver? No, I will fly to Denver for Lenny Kravitz. But if we end up having sex before his Red Rocks concert, is that trafficking, right? I'm crossing state lines. He's not coercing me to do anything. But see, I think with Cassie, with the text messages and all that, we got enough of that for them to say, well, look, she wanted to be there. She wanted to do this. So that's going to be complex. And when the jury gets those instructions, it's going to be interesting to see how close they try to follow those instructions. Because I do think, in general, people are thinking logically, right? And logically think this guy is a bad actor. This guy is a bad actor. He's abusive. We saw that video. This is crazy. He should go to jail for something. It's kind of like what happened with O.J. Simpson. I happen to think O.J. Simpson did kill 2 people. I think he did do a double.
That was revenge for Rodney King, I think.
Exactly. And so what did O.J. Simpson get busted for? Some sort of thing.
He stole his
memorabilia back.
Because people want him to be punished, right? So it's that fighting thing. And I think that's where Diddy is going to go down,
Before the trial started, I was like, he's cooked on transportation and sex trafficking. And at first I'm like, he gonna beat the RICO. Now I think he's cooked on the RICO. He's cooked on the transportation of prostitution. The sex trafficking is gonna be very tricky for him though. He might can get that. But the problem is they're going to put a therapist on the stand to explain why she stayed there for 10 years. They're going to put a therapist on the stand to explain Stockholm syndrome. And the force was essentially financial. The force was mental. And what's even crazier, he's such a manipulator. after they broke up, you know, he's still texting her years later. So happy for you. Right. Wow, you're gonna be a great mother. That's that mental like manipulation to see if she's gonna bite back, to see if I can.
She did bite, but that's
but hold on.
I think that shows the relationship.
Years. No, she bit back after years because they said he texted her
in 2020.
In 2020, but she didn't text back until like a year or so later because she said something like, "We got to pull it up and see," because she was like, "It took me some time to really formulate my thoughts, and I was happy to hear, you know, some of these things." They didn't have like a back and forth text string.
He was congratulating. I thought it was for a series of 4 texts. It was like 2 from her, 2 from him. And the last text was from him about congratulating her on, you know, I don't want to disrespect your marriage, so forth and so on. You're going to be a great mother. And that was the last, you know what I'm saying? I think he signed it Love because, you know, he changed his name to Love or whatever. But yeah, there was a period of time. They quit speaking from 2018, you know, after Kim passed, to 2020. And between that time, that's when she got married. But she was, the way I was reading her stuff, seemed like she is, I think, and I could be, like you said, we're not in the courtroom, all we're getting is these crazy pastel drawings of what was going on, and we don't know the tone of how she was speaking. But I think she truly, and it could be Stockholm syndrome, but I think she truly was in love with Diddy. I think she still has and is in love with Diddy. But she had to get that out to try to break, you know what I'm saying, to break something, to whatever that cycle is. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I think, honest, I think she'll take Diddy back in a heartbeat. I tell you that, I'm for real.
But we got to think, okay, she was 19. She said, I had never even had oral sex before. He freaked the girl out. And then he put her on drugs at 20, and not small drugs, not we just doing weed. Heavy drugs. Of course, that is going to mess up your psyche. That went on for 10 years. So, yeah, she probably feels a weird type of toxic connection to him. Because we went through so much. And when she looks at her husband, that's all I know. And when I look at my husband's nice. He's great. He's good. But you're not that. And sometimes we as people are so connected to the negativity.
You're not that.
It is because that's all she knows. That's all she knows.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, I think she thought that that's what a relationship should be until they got to that funeral and she started listening to how he, you know, because there was rumors going around that he did Kim.
I think he did the same thing to Kim.
He did. So she's thinking that this was the relation, but to hear him say that out of all the people he's dated, that was his soulmate, when she felt like that should have been her role. I think that was probably her sobering moment to help her move on and where she needed to go. But I think that, you know, again, that's all she knows. I mean, she was only with the other guy for what, 2 or 3 years. So she got a little bit, but yeah, what was she? She was with him for a year, 2 or 3 years. She met him. I don't remember, child. I just know.
I know she was with him. He's the one who got her the deal. See, that's the thing. People, I was like, I want to hear from Ryan. Where he at? Because he's the one who set the whole situation up and then got X'd out of the situation all those years later. You know what I'm saying? I would love to hear from Ryan Leslie. I know he said his piece on, I want to say it was 106 in Park or something like that back in the day. But,
about Diddy?
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, about that situation.
It was probably Breakfast Club.
It was Breakfast Club.
With Breakfast Club. I'm sorry. But yeah, about that situation.
That was Diddy's MO, because that's how he got Kim Porter, because Kim Porter was with Al B. Sure.
Yeah, well,
that's when he was one of these girlfriends.
He taking from all the light-skinned brothers.
He takes them all. His baby mama is Tupac's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
I was
Misa.
Say it was somebody.
No, Suge. I thought it was Suge's. Misa?
Not Misa. The other one, the one that's Chance's mom.
I don't know. He got a lot of kids that I be just seeing pop up and like, where that kid come from?
Twins, and it's one girl that's always with the twins. Her mom is Tupac's ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
And look, and catch the tea on Gina. Remember they brought up Chris Brown. They said, oh, he was mad because he said Cassie was dancing with Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Gina Hoon, which was victim 3 who disappeared, he went and got her. That was Chris Brown ex-girlfriend.
I was going to say
this is his MO.
He's still in his son's girlfriends too.
Yeah. Lori Harvey.
Lori Harvey, yeah.
He kind of like he was Drake before Drake.
Yeah,
that's Scorpio.
like smacked him. That's why
that
he
Scorpio
smacked
stuff.
her. Drake was probably trying to talk to somebody, one of his girls, and maybe that's
Mm.
why he was so mad at Michael B. Jordan for talking to Cassie. He
Yeah.
probably
He probably lost his mind when he seen Michael B. Jordan with Lori Harvey. Oh, he probably wanted to lose. Oh, he probably lost it. Oh my
Mm.
God.
Oh, he did talk to 50. Didn't he talk to 50 Cent baby mama too?
I think she's victim too.
Oh,
I think she's victim too.
Wow.
I forgot about
Wow.
That's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Did 50 Cent is gonna have a field day.
Yeah.
Because you remember
Okay,
he
so
called him.
Is that why? Because I mean, he go hard on Diddy, but he
Yeah.
been ramping it up. He been.
So tell me about that, because I'm not familiar. I didn't know that he was dating her. What
I forgot her
happened in regards
name.
to that?
It's Sire's mom. And I hate to say his child's name on here, but
Why? It's gonna be part of the
yeah,
case.
you're right. It's probably part of the case. She said, why?
Shoot.
But I forgot her name. What's her? Do you remember her name, Tina?
I'm gonna look her up.
Daphne Joy?
Daff, yeah, Daff, because she put a case on 50 at one point in time, and then she dropped it.
Right.
It was around all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
when all the Diddy stuff came out, 50 Cent said, "You little sex worker." He kept calling her a sex worker, which is crazy. So she put a case on him and said, "If you gonna call me a sex worker, tell people about what you did." She eventually dropped it. I think victim two was her.
Wow.
Because if you go and look at one of the docket entries when everybody was deciding if they were going to be Jane Doe's or not, in her particular entry, she said there was like a special circumstance on why she has to remain anonymous. It was like there by no means
she know 50.
There is a special circumstance that she has to remain anonymous by no means whatsoever. And what makes me think it's her is because they said whoever she is, she has a son. And they started dating around 2020. And they said he just beat her up last year.
Wow.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, she did say something like that. She came out and said something like that.
No,
is that the one that Young Miami was arguing with?
No, Young Miami was arguing with Gina, victim 3, who went missing.
Do you think? I'm glad you brought up. Does Young Miami? Because remember, she came on her own show and was talking about she liked to be peed on.
Yeah, she did say that.
Diddy was doing this to all these people.
Oh man, Diddy.
He was doing it to all of them.
He done. I don't even know why we even still talk. He is done. I think he out of here, man.
Yeah, he's out.
If Cassie was actually a part of this enterprise or whatever, I feel like she's a glorified Young Miami. Like Young Miami kind of had the same role.
But that to me, and I know Tina keeps saying they got deals or whatever, but they are the Rico. Like I need more charges, man. Like I need Cassie charged. I need Young Miami charged. Daphne. I need all.
Young Miami got a show out of it, so I know she plays some kind of role. Right? Ain't nobody watching that show for real.
And an award for it. Like come on,
you know what I mean?
Blue, like, y'all got to think about the origin of the RICO charges. The origin of the whole racketeering is
to take them
we keep locking up the little guys who's selling the drugs, and as soon as we lock them up, the mob boss just put 10 other people in there.
10 other people out there, right?
So when I take the young people in or the little people in and say, listen, I'm going to give all y'all 50 years, but I really want him. I really want the guy sitting up there in the tower. Right. So you tell me everything you need to know. Right. I'm going to let you leave. So that's all they're doing.
It's normally at least 2 or 3 who got to hold it down though, right?
Well, some people want to fight it. Some people
2 or 3 got to hold it. That 2 or 3 got to be like, nah.
But these are regular people. These are not mob bosses. These are assistants. These are people who's like, listen, I was just bringing the fucking baby oil. I'm not gonna do 10 years for that.
That's what. But even, and I'm with you. And that's why I'm like, they really going hard with the RICO because you absolutely right. I'm pretty sure whoever agent such and such was who wrote it up and sent it to the DA.
Who was taking the money out the bank? Who was booking the hotel?
Who was doing all of? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they was like, well, we got a RICO because we got assist. But even in the case, they wrote up what it was: Sean John, Diddy, Combs Enterprises. I forgot all the companies. You know what I'm saying that they was naming. But with bodyguard, how do bodyguards are they employed under like Bad Boy Records, or are they employed through? Well, I guess if it's his homeboy, I guess it would be employed through.
It depends on how he want to do it. That's up to him, how he classifies people.
Yeah.
He might have his own private security company that only works for him.
That only works for him, yeah. Damn, Diddy.
What do you think about, because I just thought about it when you all were talking about all these different people and 50 people and stuff like that. And also for everyone's respected channels and my channel, y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure you all leaving comments to let us know that you appreciate what we're doing over here. But y'all remember the drug mule? You think we're going to hear or see from him?
Nah, they done sent him to Cuba somewhere already.
Because I'm quite sure he was the one to let them know about all the drugs and stuff that were being put in and put out. I'm quite sure he may have seen something or anything like that. You think he's going to testify?
They done sent him to the Ozarks.
I doubt it. I don't think they're going to go the drug route.
Yeah, I think it depends on how particular they want to be about the drugs. I don't think they care too much about the drugs, but he's part of the RICO. He was going and getting them and bringing them back. So we'll see. I don't know about that, but we'll see.
But and it's not easy to really, even have to go the drug route because drugs was there. And I'm pretty, you know what I'm saying? They got the crazy thing with Diddy is right before he was supposed to turn himself in. Diddy, why are you in the hotel with the drugs and the baby oil and stuff? Why you still got this going on?
He was trying to get his last freak off.
Having a last hurrah right before you about to go in is crazy.
That is wild. All right, hey y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna turn myself in on Wednesday. Do not show up before Wednesday because I got something. It's like the Dave Chappelle skit. Remember the Dave Chappelle skit? Like what?
I think I'm gonna come in around 10.
Yeah, you come around 10. Okay, cool. Like what is going? That was weird. I was like, Diddy, how did you get caught with all this stuff? And you knew that they was on you. Like they told you, we coming to get you, bro. Oh, we gonna come Friday. If they say they coming Friday, the day when soon as you hang that phone up, get out of there. Bro.
Maybe he thought he could go to them instead of them coming to him.
I mean, no, he was supposed to surrender himself. I'm cool with that. But me just being a black man from the streets. If the police is giving me a chance to turn myself in, they outside. As soon as I open the door, they out there.
Set up and everything.
Right. They outside. And that he should know better. That's what I'm getting at. Why? I would have been out of that hotel or wherever. He was in Miami, right?
No, they got him in New York.
He was in New York. I'm sorry. He was in New York and the hotel had like the whole floor or whatever. Like, come on, Diddy. What you thought? Did they want to go to room 215? You thought they weren't going to go?
He thought they were going to take him in and he was going to get bail the next morning and he was going to come out and keep doing what he was doing. That's what he thought. Because his lawyer's been goofballing him all this time saying, they ain't got nothing. This ain't nothing. You good.
Nah.
Yeah.
It depends on the phone. I was going to say you should be flushing down the drugs, but they already know. They already got the so ain't no point.
Ain't no point.
They might, like I said, they just have to lean into it. Hey, he was a drug addict. Hey, he was a sex addict.
That's what
this is how bad it was with him. He had a problem. He was so addicted to this stuff. When the feds took him in, he had to have it. So you
that's a good one.
You just have to lean into it. Y'all, you just have to lean into the truth. That's it.
Yeah, they're leaning into domestic violence. I'm not sure why they can't lean into drugs. So the drug thing is something that people are talking about now, present day. I'm on Roland Martin every now and then, and he was saying that there's a rumor out there that he's on drugs now. I mean, in other words, that wasn't just an act thing. He's on drugs a lot. So I mean, why not use that?
Well, I think they said he went to rehab, right?
Use it anyway, I mean,
I think they said he went to rehab or something like but they wouldn't let Cassie speak on it. I think they objected to when it was brought up about him going to rehab or whatever.
Look, I hope he went to rehab after Cassie filed that lawsuit. If I was his representative, I would be like, go check yourself in. Them folks coming. You have to start preparing your defense now.
Tina, he didn't do that. He had baby oil and ketamine and all types of stuff, and he didn't go check into no rehab. He went and bought some more baby oil.
I'm trying to help him.
And cocaine or whatever. He went and did that instead of checking in.
And then they said, look, Josh, then they said he called victim 2 a couple days after Cassie settled the lawsuit, coercing her. Hey, everything we did was straight, right? You good? Everything we and as long as you keep this same story, I'm gonna make sure I keep paying your bill, sir.
I thought that was done. He called.
No, this is the problem. He calling so many people.
He just
He
called
called
them
Victim
all.
2. Then he called Kalina. He paid Kalina off because
Yeah.
when Don filed the lawsuit, that's when he hit Kalina up and paid
Yeah.
her off. That's obstruction. He has
That's
so
why
many RICO like predicates they could get him on.
That's why he didn't get bail, because he kept calling potential witnesses and things like that. Because, you know, even to the point where she did she get online or get on somewhere to say that she didn't see anything, or she didn't, you know, that
Who, Kalina?
whatever it
Kalina
was.
did.
Yeah.
High as a
He didn't-
kite.
Yeah, just
He should have had the homies doing that. Like, I'm talking about the little homies. You know, hey, I'm here on behalf of the homie. He'll go a little bread, go disappear for a while this blow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
They
you
went
got to do
into
better.
her bank account and saw the deposit.
You got paying cash and drugs.
But I don't think they're gonna use it, because that was a part of the whole notebook thing. When they went through his notebook, they saw that he was writing how and so the feds was like, you know what, forget it. We're not even worried about that. We got so much other stuff. We're not even gonna worry about the Kalina Harper.
I do hope they got a lot of stuff, because the way that they started didn't give me the warm and fuzzy that they had a lot.
Right.
It didn't give me a warm and fuzzy that they had a lot.
Right.
But
they don't need a lot. Yeah. They just need 2.
I know.
I don't need a lot. I just need 2.
But we dealing with jurors. I still got to get it to the jurors. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They still got to understand those 2.
And the jurors got to hear the instructions, and it only takes 1 or 2 of them to take this thing and throw it in the garbage. Okay, so I don't understand. I thought this thing was going to be a lot hotter than it was with Cassie as one of the first witnesses. I figured we're going to know the outcome in the 3rd day of her testimony, and that didn't happen. And I'm thinking, who's going to be up there that's more compelling than somebody that's known this guy for 11 years? Maybe there is going to be somebody, because certainly these cases are full of surprises, but I'm like, if this didn't do it, then this is going to be interesting to see who they bring next. You know what I'm saying?
They call Gene Deal, like the comments are saying, it's a wrap.
I heard somebody say they're going down to Cuba to get Tupac, to get him up there. I heard all types of stuff.
Well, whoever these other victims are going to be in, I think maybe they're, because that will be so recent now, because Cassie to me was giving a lot of the background information, and they're trying to show that this is an enterprise and it's been going on for a while. I think that the two other people that they got to call up here are going to be very important, particularly for the trafficking and the they've already figured out that the transportation, that I think that's in a lot. I think that maybe that will be maybe they'll have more information for us, or more testimony for us for that, from those other 2 victims. Because like I said, Cassie gave me background information. She gave me I understand what it is. I understand what a freak off is and what it's not. It's not him picking people from parties to do anything.
Right.
That was a specific
fetish that he had with her, and that he only shared, like Cassie said, that he shared this with me.
A specific fetish that he has with the people who he's dating.
Right.
It's not like he's just bopping people off the street.
Right.
He's dating these people, and then he's, figuring a way to get that in there, because this is how he has sex. It's not what he does out in the public.
Right.
So we're talking about this, but this is one thing that's interesting to me, and maybe again, because I think too hard on things, and maybe on those things. But is it me? But no, I noticed that they were asking like who the witnesses was and things like that. Do they piecemeal in cases like this? Do they piecemeal who the witnesses are? Because it looks like they would know who the witnesses were coming.
They do.
That's the sense I. Because the judge was like, well, who's coming? Who's the witness here? Who's coming next? I was thinking that he had a list of witnesses.
I don't think they're in order.
Okay.
Because like Cassie, I don't think Cassie, because I think they put her front for it because of her, her being pregnant like that. But I don't think that they wanted her in that order of events, so to speak, if you get what I'm saying.
Okay.
Sometimes it's based off availability, isn't it?
Yeah. Availability, things of that nature. I think they got witnesses that they know they're going to call, and then there's witnesses that, are still like the third witness or whatever that disappeared. You know what I'm saying? She might show up, she might not. We don't know. Her lawyer. We finally got in contact with the lawyer or whatever, but it's I don't think it's piecemeal. There's a list, but who's coming next and who's not is different. Because remember, they had an objection about Dunn, and they already knew Dunn was supposed to come and testify.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Yeah, but then they did the agent, the special agent before her. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, why y'all did that? Y'all on the roll with Cassie. Let's get Dunn in here. That special agent ain't really gonna,
Like
change.
it should have been scheduling. It was only 5 minutes. Let's get the agent in, get the agent out.
True.
Because and I guess, I love a good PowerPoint. So I love little things to be in a way that I can make sense. But I was just wondering, because even with the testimony, they were jumping around. First, they were talking about 2011. Then they were talking about 2015. Then they went to 2016. Then they went back to 2009.
From the defense or the prosecution?
I think both of them. Both of them were jumping around to the point where I was like, well, no, can't you just stick with one thing and go right straight to the other? But that's just my little brain. But the reason why I was asking, because I know that we were just talking about Diddy and it being obstructive and calling witnesses and stuff like that. I was just wondering, were they piecemealing to kind of keep making sure that he don't know who's supposed to be called, so he won't be calling? Have him calling somebody and tell him, hey, you need to go and give that person a 10 album record deal and have them start on a record in Bali or something like that.
Speaking
that brings
of
up my question. I need to ask this question. Okay, so Cassie had a 10 album deal. What's with all the other artists from Bad Boy that we never got music from? Are they roped into some kind of craziness too? We ain't get music from hella Bad Boy artists.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and that's a question that they could bring up. We had like Loon, who he got locked up, came back as a Muslim. We had
Loon, Black Rob,
who rest in peace, he passed away.
Some of the girl artists and
the girl,
and groups that he had.
And Day 26, Danity Kane. I don't know. I think that would be, if I'm the defense, I'm bringing in all of that. Well, how come you were the only one with it, especially when you signed this deal 2 years prior to the freaking off, you know what I'm saying? And that's, to me, where I think I would try to play into that situation. Like when it comes to what we talk about, like the coercion of the forcing, using this to be, it's like,
but that's not even industry standard. They don't give people 10 albums.
Yes, it is, Pam.
Oh no, I ain't never heard no 10 album deal. That's
Diddy is the 10 album guy. That's Diddy does that.
But even if they do, we never get a 10 album deal and only hear one song from the artist.
Right.
Now that is true. That is true. But even by her own admission, she said, I didn't have time to do the music because I was too busy doing.
That's the problem. That's how they go. That's her saying that is he was essentially using financial leverage, all this type of leverage to say, do the freak offs. We're gonna work on the album. Do the freak offs. You can go in the studio today. But he's going to be able to combat that. His team is going to come and show analytics, and they're going to say, hey, we tried to shop the song on the radio. It didn't work. We paid for studio time with this. People just didn't care to hear her music. That's why she didn't put any other albums out.
They could go back to her BET performance where her voice and everything cracked too.
It's a lot of things that can be brought up. Hey, I don't think she was ready. I signed a deal. I thought she was ready. She's not ready, but things of that nature. The album didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out.
But there's
they'll say, well, why didn't you drop her? I don't have to drop a talent. I can keep her on. You know what I'm saying?
And then she said she had to fight to get out the label, to get out the deal after she left. She had to fight him.
Yeah,
I think she did come out with another song after that too. And I think
she had a dope mixtape that she dropped also. Like Cassie put out music.
She can't argue, or he can argue that people just didn't connect with her.
Didn't just connect with her. She was on the sound, because not only did she do music, she did 3 movies or something like that too. She was in movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it wasn't like she wasn't working.
Given the unpredictable nature of the music business, that's going to be an easy argument to make.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a little trouble with that, I think.
Yeah.
But there's some artists from Bad Boy that I wanted music from, and I never got it. So I'm personally affected. So, he's throwing that out there.
You trying to figure this whole thing.
Hey, where's my second Demand album and some of these other artists?
They couldn't get together. They all got locked up and couldn't get together, man.
Well, with the band, it was Freddie and Chopper out here with Sarah and all sorts of stuff.
Sarah beat up her husband and got locked up or something like that.
I'll forget about all that. But there's other artists that I want music from, so that's personal.
And
I
I'm
feel you.
surprised that all them folks walked to go get a cheesecake the way they cut up.
Hey, Diddy was using force and coercion.
That's definitely coercion. He coerced them somehow. He manipulated them somehow. Because I'm not walking into another borough to get you cheesecake.
Are we? And so we'll I've got a couple, or if you all have any questions, to go ahead and to ask. And if you in the chat have any questions to ask of us, go ahead and put that down in the chat. Do you think anyway? We were talking about what is it? Danity Kane and day 26 and all this other place. Think any of those people are going to come in and testify, or who do we think? Because I haven't
Don is
seen
from Danity Kane.
Yeah,
Don
Don
is from Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money.
Yeah, and Aubrey said she's not going to testify. She tweeted that she wasn't going to testify. She's the one who was going like the hardest at Diddy from.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that she wasn't going to testify, even if she wanted to show his coercive ways.
Mm-hmm. You would think she would be the perfect candidate. But I think she might have been involved in some of this stuff until she wasn't. That's why I think she kind of like, let me just stay away from that. A lot of people, I seen some people, some lawyers or some other YouTubers putting together Britney Spears and all of them saying all of this was around the same, like that 2018, the conservatorship with Britney Spears. I forgot the guy they kept bringing up, Lou somebody. But saying that he was involved in all of that, and like, where did he learn some of this stuff from? The sexual acts and all of that. I was like, man, y'all really trying to connect some dots, but I don't know. It might be some play there. I don't know.
You know what? Actually, that brings up a good point. Yeah, Clive.
Not just Clive. It's another guy.
Clive Davis. I think Clive.
Yeah, always get them confused. Clive Davis. Not just Clive Davis, because Diddy was under Clive. They brought up Andre Harrell. They was like, man, Diddy could probably just pin everything on Andre Harrell for grooming him to be. I was like, that'd be some nasty work if they did that. But I don't know. Who was in?
That Avon guy was the guy that would help people like the Diddys and the Andre Harrells and all those people. Like if they got into some serious issues and problems, he was the kind of guy that would come up and be able to talk him out of it. So this, because he's no longer with us. So
there's no way Clive Davis is going to get dinged. I see a bunch of memes happening, but I cannot imagine that.
Nah, Clive Davis ain't going to.
If I was them, I'd go for it. I mean, what if I was in defense, I'd go for all of that.
Yeah.
He trained. This is what they trained him to do at blah 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 records. I mean,
let's really get the Rico. There we go, Tina. Now let's really get the Rico.
But if he's the one that taught Diddy how to do it, it was saying a reason that he's way better at it than Diddy would be. So
apparently so. But again, a lot of this comes down to who you prosecute, who prosecutors decide to prosecute. And I'm telling you, SDNY is like, okay, we'll send 5 white women prosecutors out there and play in your face in the birthplace of white feminism, New York. Look, nothing against all that, but really, y'all don't have one black prosecutor. They didn't say to themselves, wait a minute, maybe we should have one black prosecutor out there so this doesn't look like what it is. It's all white women prosecuting.
Yeah, what did Mark Garagos call them? A pack of white women?
Yeah, I mean,
a six pack of white women.
Yeah, it doesn't make him right, but it's just kind of like, wow, really? I mean, is it going to be that? So I just, in the jurisdiction of New York, all I can say is you would think that there would be other cases that could fit the descriptions that we're hearing, and yet this is the case. This is the only case.
I mean, I'm trying, and I don't know. It might be a thing with Clive. Now that I think about it, Mariah Carey married Clive Davis. She was young. He was older.
Right.
The way Brad.
Tommy Mottola.
Oh, that was Tommy Mottola. I thought it was Clive Davis.
No, she was married to Tommy Mottola.
Never mind. Never mind.
That has its own thing to it too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I even used it. Let's use Tommy Mottola then. Tommy Mottola, Mariah Carey. The way Brad explained how her whole setup was kind of sounds like Cassie's setup, like couldn't leave, was under protection, lock and key, armed guards, all types of stuff like that, until she finally got away. And she was over there at under Clive though. That's what I'm saying. Like that whole record label, all of them was under Clive. Well, I mean, the entire culture of it, let's face it, is women who have really huge talent managed by men in a sort of very sexual way, right? I mean, let's be real about what this entire house is. And so that, I think, certainly goes to the prosecution's ability to argue that this whole thing is about sort of this whole industry is misogynistic and there's a patriarchal hierarchy there, which is obvious. I mean, even when rap in the beginning of rap, where we had before Diddy's career actually starts, we had some really intellectual rappers that were freaking fantastic. It stand the test of time to this day. Public Enemy, that stuff, all that stuff stands the test of time. But we got into, I don't know when it started. I don't know if it was 2 Live Crew or whatever, but this to me is sort of a reflection of the way women are just sort of handled by all these men. You're not seeing a whole lot of women involved in the management of this, or even on the periphery. So that's sort of problematic. And I think if I was the prosecution, I would go for that. I'd go for that, because it's kind of like, what are they? What are they, like slaves on a plantation and all these men are in control of everything. So it's just sort of, I don't know what to say about that, but it's a clear patriarchal structure there that could play into the case at some point.
Yeah. I remember the turnaround, Lauren. It seemed like the turnaround when you started to having the girls having to be the only girl in the crew. Because you remember you had who was that? You had Lil Kim with Bad Boy, I think it was, and then you had Eve with the Rough Riders, and then you had Foxy, and then if they were the only woman in the crew, then they had to be real sexy and sex appeal, and she had to be, she's the pretty girl, but honey, she could rap like the boys and stuff like that. And that's where it seemed like that turnaround started to happen, because before you had the Money Love, the Queen Latifahs, Lady of Rage, well, not the Lady of Rage, what's the girl's name? Yo-Yo and all of them. You had all of those women that were coming out, and they were rapping about, their lives and stuff, even with Salt and Pepper, with Push It and all that other stuff. But it just seemed like once you started having these crews, that's when all of a sudden all this, and then this is where you start seeing women be more in rap, be more sexualized, and then also with vixens and stuff.
The reason I'm a little bit sensitive to this idea of women as objects, the reason I'm sensitive to the racial piece in this is that the rock and roll was doing the same exact thing. So it wasn't just rap. In fact, before rap even showed up, of course, rock and roll was doing the exact same thing. Women were objectified. We got the White Snake video with the woman dancing on the car. All that's very exciting. It's all cool and all that. But it's like, it's no different than what rap does a little bit later. But it just, again, it amazes me how somehow or another there's only R&B stars and rap stars that are getting prosecuted. Like, so it just seems to me that is deeply suspicious. And of course, when I think about who's bringing these adjudications and what they look like and where they're coming from, I get very suspicious of that. It's not that I think Sean is right. It's just that I think, okay, if y'all doing these types of prosecutions, okay, prosecute everybody, So that's interesting.
It's the same thing if you remember. It is. It's the same thing I remember when.
Did Pam freeze again?
No, Pam.
She froze.
No, we didn't. Did we lose me?
No, you're good. You're good now.
Oh, okay. No, it reminds me of when all those black men were going to jail for tax evasion. You remember that? It was like you had, who was that? Between the Sheets guy, one of the Isleys was going, and then you had Wesley Snipes going.
Right.
Didn't Red Fox have an issue? All of a sudden you have, but then on the flip side, you'll see, there were a lot of white producers, they were having tax issues too. They were allowed to pay their tax bill or whatever, but these particular people had to go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, really look at this is another era of time, of course, but of course the Hugh Hefner Playboy empire is based on this entire thing that we're talking about right now. You talk about, Sean Combs and R. Kelly, that's child's play compared to what Hugh Hefner built. And then the only thing we hear about with that is that Don Cornelius may have sexually assaulted some. Remember when that story hit? And I said to myself, are you kidding me? That entire thing should be RICO'd up, right? So I get that Hugh Hefner, of course, is not with us. He died in 2017. And I get that it was another era and all that. But I'm just saying it's amazing who brings the adjudication matters. And this is why when Alvin Bragg brought the John Majors case, and we later found out that everybody in his office is white, effectively the prosecutors. And then when I'm sitting in court and seeing these people, seeing who the staff is, I'm like, oh, now I see why we're here. Like, now I get why, of all the actors in the world, of all the things we've heard the actors have gotten involved in, it's not to say that John Majors is a perfect guy, but we have heard other stories that were crazy and they didn't find themselves into a courtroom. So yeah, I'm going to speak about that. I mean, I don't just accept that and go, oh, okay, cool. No, it's the way that racism is perpetuated, that we don't bring some of that up. Although, again, maybe this case should have been adjudicated. Obviously, Cassie should not have been putting up with, I'll say it again and again, she should not have had to put up with this level of abuse. And then, toying with your career and your contract and your 10 records, that's all bullshit. She should not have had to deal with that. That is a construct that men typically do not have to deal with in their professional relationships. So that is definitely a discussion that needs to be had. So, it's all there.
Well, not for nothing, the NYPD has set up a specific task force against hip hop. So, like, if it's anybody that we're talking about, it should be in the city of New York, where
I did not know that.
they clearly have president.
Yeah.
They had a whole task
What,
force.
Lauren? You didn't hear about the
I
hip
did not
hop?
know that. I did not know that.
And guess where it came from? Wasn't it around Puffy
It was
and
because of
Tupac?
Puffy and Tupac.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So
Yeah,
they have
hip-hop police.
specific, they have a whole task force predicated on watching some of these rappers and the things that they do around the city. So
That's
no,
incredible.
I definitely can see your point there for sure.
That's wild. Wow.
When did they start this task force? Because I wanted
Oh,
to see.
it was around.
This was like 96.
Yeah, it was around Biggie and Tupac, because that stuff was so tense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're crossing state lines. Yeah, they had a whole unit.
Gotcha.
That's all I'm researching.
Well, see, it lasted for a while. If it's not still around today,
it might still be there.
Yeah, I think it's still around. It's
Probably
still around.
is. Wow.
Okay,
I heard about it with 50 and Jadakiss and Fat Joe and all of them.
Yeah.
So
no, it predates that. Yeah, it was like 90, because they used to talk about that. They actually would talk about it, like the Source magazine, XXL, talk about the hip hop police and the things.
The radio stations too.
Yep.
Well, one thing is for sure is that when Black people start making money, all of a sudden IRS and start, you're seeing with the NIL conversation right now, right? Ooh, now the Black players are making all this money. They totally forget about the fact there are white players making money as well, but still they see, Sanders, Sanders kids are doing stuff and buying Rolls Royces. Let's regulate this. What y'all? I'm thinking
watch a little too much. Now we're gonna draft him in the 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's amazing what happens. I mean, it's crazy.
So we've gotten through this first week. What do you think that they have in store for us in this second week? Because again, I know when I do my daily recaps, I see a lot of the messages saying, well, we want to see, everybody's expecting again. And I say this again, people, that what you thought the freak offs were and all these artists who you thought were going to get caught up in it, that's not what's happening here.
Right.
But as I'm saying that, who do you think the prosecution needs to put on the case to kind of put a nail in the coffin for the RICO case? And on the same token, on the flip side, who do you think that the defense either needs to cross-examine or call to kind of to maybe do a possible implode on the case?
Gene Deal. If they find Gene Deal and get him on this, and the things that he said were true,
he want to get up there so bad.
I'm sure he does. I
don't think Gene was around during Cassie. That's when we're getting into Roger Bonds. That's why I think he's testifying.
Yeah. J-Lo. Just because I think putting J-Lo up there just because I think you got to remember whole criminal case. Yeah, I'm still painting Diddy as this evil, manipulative, fly off the handle at any time. You know what I'm saying? If I can get J-Lo up on that stand and say, man, Shine didn't shoot nobody.
You start tiptoeing around double jeopardy, he'll definitely have an appellate situation.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That speaks to his manipulation too.
Yeah, it ain't gotta be tried.
Everything around it. Yeah.
Right. It ain't gotta be him being tried for the shooting. But if J-Lo got up there and saying, I didn't see Shine shoot anybody, all I know is I know who brought a gun to the club.
Toss it in the Shine's hand.
Right. I know who brought a gun to the club that night.
Well, you know that's patterned because didn't Cassie testify that she was bringing in guns in her purse too?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I said. This ain't new. He's been doing this. He's been doing this 30 years. This is not new. It's just gotten more extreme. Kind of like when we was talking about R. Kelly. It's like when R. Kelly got off with the charge the first time. Yeah. He ain't stopped. He just got more sophisticated with it. It's like, oh my God.
Did they catch him at the hotel with all the stuff too?
Oh my God. I doubt they'll put Shine on the stand. Sean, I don't think that they would put him on. I don't think they put Shine.
Shine a whole politician in Belize now. So
and he done did the time already for whatever happened. I don't even think he want to get up there.
And he's not even worried about that anymore.
I don't think there's gonna be like people are looking for a big explosion. I don't think there's gonna be a big explosion.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think there's just gonna be a lot of people talking about the things that is building into this RICO. Yeah, I booked the escorts. Yeah, he told me to go get Cass, or he told me to stand in front of the door so Cassie couldn't leave. That's your kidnapping. Like it's gonna be all these little random little things that is gonna build into the RICO. The sex trafficking is gonna be great for me. That's
you know who they need to bring up on the stand? They need to find this little white girl that Diddy adopted and bring her on the stand.
Yeah, the adopted white girl.
that was crazy. And I need
the adopted white girl. Where's she at?
Wait, I don't know nothing about that. Who got adopted?
Diddy did a whole Instagram live
where he adopted
made a special announcement during the pandemic and said, "Oh, I adopted this little white girl."
Wow.
And she called him Daddy Combs.
Yep.
Wow.
So I need answers on that.
Speaking of that, I gotta say this. Speaking of that, you just said that. Listen, let me explain, everybody and all of our audiences. Can we have a consensus to say all of this mess about baby girl and pops and daddy and all? Can we say that now with these cases can give us the ick? Because ain't no way in the world I'm gonna sit up here and call you pop. And every time I'm called,
you
she had a chain. She had a little necklace that said pop, didn't she?
Man, you will.
Was that real?
20. Yeah, that was real.
That picture? Yeah. Okay.
I ain't got nothing to speak on that. That's just.
Listen, we have seen people around the way with less money than Diddy have women doing these things. Now, that's why I'm like, this is just an elevated level of doing it because he got money, power, and control. But we see this every day. Like we see the dope dealer ain't got no business talking to the girl who just graduated high school. She might be legal. She might be legal. She 18, but you already know what you finna do to this girl. You know she ain't got no experience. You finna turn around.
I feel you. Keefe D does nothing for this case. I don't think Keefe D does anything for this case. I keep seeing Sir say Keefe D is him coming up there would just be for salaciousness and stuff like that. It doesn't.
According to what you think about the defense, maybe they want to just stir in some extra mess.
Maybe they bring Keefe D.
Who is Keefe D?
Who is Keefe D?
Keefe D is the one who allegedly killed Tupac.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they want to stir up some more mess, so they bring in Keefe D, DJ Vlad.
He had been
Vlad. Now Vlad to get up there quick. I guarantee Vlad to get up there and he'll talk his.
Vlad is actually working for the.
Vlad know all the info.
That's what they say.
Yeah,
Vlad know all the info.
Vlad gave them some of the info to go on this case.
Yeah. Vlad know it all.
Keefe D said Diddy gave him $2 million to get rid of Tupac.
Yeah, but that don't to me that I don't think that does anything for this case. You know?
No, it does. I was just telling Pam who he is and how he's the connection with everything. But
okay, I just didn't know the guy's name.
Does anybody know if Cassie has what her relationship with her dad and whether or not she has any male siblings?
She does. Her brother was in the courtroom.
Oh, okay.
She has a brother.
I got to tell you, as I'm listening to this whole story, in the back of my mind is the fact that my dad, if I was 19 years old and I looked like her and that was going on, you know, my brother and my father would have killed him. I mean, there's no way that would have happened. And particularly after that video, there's no way that, oh, you're with some music producer and it's all very mysterious. No, my dad would have been sitting there, you know, cleaning his service revolver or something. I don't know. I just think it's
just saying the husband been staring at him, like staring daggers at him throughout the entire court case.
He definitely has.
Speaking of that,
not that it means anything. He's not going to do nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And he speaking of that, because we're not in the courtroom, but we do get some stuff coming out of the courtroom. Some of the highlights of the courtroom drama was that his daughters were there, and then when they started talking about the salaciousness, they left, and then. When the prosecutor started talking about was it 2018, 2019 forced intercourse, they made her husband leave courtroom, and that like Josh says that he was staring him down. I just if they just had, so we could see that, we could hear
see him pan to the.
Yeah,
look, you know you can feel when somebody looking at you. He probably was heating Diddy neck up. Boy, boy.
That's why Diddy keep looking around. He trying to make sure he ain't got a laser pointed at the back of his head.
I got a question though. Why do y'all think they keep bringing Diddy in the same outfit? No.
Who knows? I mean, you'd be surprised how many detailed conversations go on about. Yeah. Could be any of
normally you don't see that. Normally it's an outfit change, especially somebody like Diddy. Maybe they just trying to show that he's a modest guy, and I'm like, Diddy is not a modest guy.
He's not.
I thought the fact that he's got gray hair now was humiliation enough for him. Yeah, obviously he's been dyeing his hair this entire time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Somebody said he looked like a koala bear.
Yeah.
I was like, that's humiliation right there. That's enough.
They're trying to make it seem like because he looks like somebody's granddaddy, that he couldn't possibly be doing all of these things. I don't know. He would, I don't know. But they don't have Big Sheen in the prison.
To me, that doesn't work for somebody like Diddy. Diddy was larger. You know what I'm saying? Through what, 3 decades now?
Yeah.
Larger than life. I don't know anybody who don't know.
Top.
Right, over the top. Don't know who
man?
Diddy is. Yeah, shiny suit. Yeah, shiny suit man. That's what they called him. You know what I'm saying? Like, dumbing him down like that to me won't do nothing to the jury, because I know who you are. I didn't saw you for 30 years.
I wouldn't have him sitting up there in no Gucci suit.
No, I'm not saying that, but
you don't want to.
He can't come in looking like he's going to the
like
Diddy.
He can't come in looking like money. I get it.
Because then that's that. And the therapist is probably going to get into it. It's the power dynamic of everything. We saw this in Magazine Dreams. We saw, we saw how when someone knows they can take over you, how a situation that's innocent can turn into something. And everybody's like, well, why Cassie kept going back? Once again, we saw in Magazine Dreams, he's calling like, hey, you did, why you ain't answer my calls?
Right.
So,
I mean, there's some interesting nuanced questions there that are very difficult to touch with regard to the levels of personal responsibility for all involved, for where people find themselves. You know damn well what time it is when somebody's calling you to show up on time, not number 9 and 10. I mean, you know what this is at that point, right? So there's something to that. Of course, there is a legal definition for prostitution. I think he's met that, right? Like some of these things are pretty obvious that the behavior is illegal. So, but it is interesting on her part, you're the girlfriend, but then you might have been, sort of in a prostitution pimp role. So it's a very complicated
madam
sense,
It wasn't even a sorta, because it was like, again, I go back to, she couldn't work on her 10 album deal because she's coordinating and making sure all of these things were ready. But because she said it was her job, it got to be so intense. It was her job, and I've asked the question. I am curiously going back to look at some of these other lawsuits to figure out time frame wise, because I'm like, shoot,
it was just a lot. The way Cassie made it seem like it was a lot going on. And I'm like, well, shit, where did Diddy find it? You couldn't find the time. Where did Diddy find the time? Because she said. She said during a premiere that she had to call Diddy to pre-plan a freak off so she can go to the premiere.
Mm.
And that's the coercion. That's the coercion.
Is it?
In order for you to go to the premiere, you know what we got to do, because
she just know that
you know what we got to do for you to go.
I don't want to be too tired for the freak off, so let me get it in now. Let me get my rest, then I go to the premiere. You can look at it either way, Tina. I feel you.
But she testified that, they did the freak off, and he wanted to have another person to come in, and she's like, no, because I got to get ready to go to the premiere. Mm-hmm. And he dotted her I's according to what the testimony was. So this is why she was tiptoeing out of the hotel room, and this is where we get the video from. Yeah. So it was like,
that's a nice hotel too. I stayed there a couple years back. That's a nice hotel.
So we got to figure out what the sex worker is gonna say.
Which one?
The one who was in the room for the hotel incident. He has to tell us what happened, because
that's Jules, isn't it?
Jules.
Yeah, it's Jules. Diddy's team is saying they lie so bad. His team has lied so much during this case that it is so like sickening to me. I'm disgusted at how much they lie. Do y'all remember when the news came out about a month ago and they was like, throw the tape out? They don't even have the tape, or they manipulated the tape. And it's like, y'all got the evidence. Y'all know they got the tape. So why are y'all putting this information out to skew the media to make us? Because now we looking like, damn, how y'all ain't got the original tape? Like, what we doing?
Well, I mean,
the CBS had it.
You ain't gonna have members of the Vienna Boys Choir working around a guy that is a rap star that has a criminal history. You're going to have guys that are probably looking for a job. If you're trying to look for a job as a bodyguard or something like that, you're there for your brawn and not that you have a PhD or something. I mean, so I'm not surprised.
But Lord, help me like you. Like, help me at least want to stick beside you, because I genuinely hate Diddy, but I do want him to have a fair trial. When it's all these little things, like, because originally they said Cassie stole his phone and she's running with his phone. Well, she said, no, that was my phone.
Yeah.
So are they now trying to say because Diddy was paying the phone bill, it's technically his phone? Like, it's those little weird lies.
Yeah, I feel
it was like,
right.
But that's the confusion. That's the confusion tactic. Yeah. That's what that is. Let me confuse.
Because if you tell me that, oh, she's not running away from a freak off, she stole his phone, and then they said it was money in the bag. She stole the money in the phone. And I'm like, well, I probably would have beat her ass too. But now we find out, no, that was my phone, and I'm trying to run and leave and go to the premiere. Well, which is it? Y'all be lying.
Maybe everybody lying.
Yeah.
Cassie lying, Diddy lying.
A lot of people have a vested interest in lying. So.
In lying, yeah.
Exactly.
Their entire financial life is probably tied to him. Their entire financial life and social life is tied to him.
So is the freak off worker gonna say Diddy beat her in the room because he wanted to continue to freak off, or is he gonna say he beat her in the room because
she kicked Diddy and took the bag and took off running? Right, yeah.
Or was that part of the production of it all? In scene 4, at 7 minutes,
look, Pam, if some scripts show up from Diddy about these freak offs and how it was supposed to be laid out, how do you even go? Let's say that actually happened. Some scripts show up and it's a production. You know what I'm saying? The fight, all of that is a production. Is the case? How does the prosecution go with that? How do you fix that? I don't think you can fix that.
They'd be trapped if that happened. That would be. I don't know how you're arguing that. Even
if it's just one script that show up, or message thread that show, okay, this is what we do when we call him. This is what's gonna happen. Yada yada yada. Man,
they gonna throw everything at the table. I expect for them to come with, because this man's life is on the line.
Right. Yeah.
His life is on the line. So we really got to come up with any and everything to explain this.
Yeah.
We got to figure it out.
What do y'all make of the she got 10 million from the hotel and then 20 million from Diddy? Does that play a part in this? And then I don't think you brought it up, Pam, the recording of Cassie saying, you're gonna get deleted. You fucking with me, I will take you out this world just like your mama would. Does that play? Did that reach any of y'all the way that maybe the defense thought it would?
it reached, you know how well, I'll put in perspective where I looked at that is because that was supposed to have been, again, that whole play was supposed to be for her and Diddy. So just imagine that this worker decides that he's going to do some taping as well, and then it comes out, and this girl never threw away her phone. She never got rid of her phone. She never turned it in. She never went to Apple to go get it fixed or nothing, because she didn't want none of them videos to pop out on the internet.
Why didn't she just download it to a computer or something?
Yeah, she didn't want none of that to happen. So to know that somebody was going to put that out would probably free. I'd have been cussing too, and I probably would have had a knife at him. Like, look, you gonna give me back? You go, because you don't have no business doing. You didn't have anything business doing any of that. I probably would be upset like that in the moment. Does that make me think that she got something in there? That particular instance, no. But coupled with whatever happened back in the day when she popped off on somebody else, that just lets me know she's fiery. Yeah, she can get down when she needs to.
Oh, of course. This is Diddy's. This is his play. That's why I was like, it's so disgusting that you're using Kim. You're using Kim as your defense. The lady is in the grave, and Kim Porter is your defense. You did the same thing to Kim. You intentionally brought Cassie around Kim. When you was with Cassie, you stopped popping out with Kim, but Kim, the love of your life. Come on, sir.
I think she passed as a victim of a freak off. I think that's what happened.
That's what LB Shu says.
The dehydration and all of that.
Even that is weird when you think about it. And it's because how Diddy has his whole thing set up where he brings doctors to you. Never went to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm telling you, I think that's what it was. I think she fell prey to that and
do you think
because it was, I forgot what type of pneumonia it was. What's that pain?
Yeah, she died of pneumonia.
Like pneumonia.
I was saying that's what they said. That's what her report says. Listen, do you think the kidnapping comes from that time when she had to stay up in that hotel room after he beat her, after he put her head through the washer and the dryer? You remember that was a whole period of time that and then the assistants wouldn't let her leave, the security wouldn't let her leave, nobody would let her leave. And I think, what did she testify?
That was supposed to be her recovery, because remember, that's when she said that D-Rock was crying. Remember, she said D-Rock cried and came in there and said, you got to ice your eye and all of this other stuff. That would constitute kidnapping. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of
what was the defining moment of kidnapping, that they told her she could not leave.
Saying you
need to go to the hotel and stay here.
Stay in the hotel. Now, I don't know if it was under lock and key. That's would be the part that they would have to argue against. Whether it was under lock and key.
Didn't she have like an assistant always there? Wasn't that Mia girl? Isn't this Mia girl going to be able to testify about that? I don't know if she's going that particular incident or another incident, because this was a couple of incidents. Because one, she had to go. She couldn't stay with the kid over at the house because he didn't want his children to see her face with the stitches, and somebody took her to the doctor. Wasn't Mia staying with her? Didn't she mention something about Mia staying with her?
I thought it was the other friend, her friend that she had that ended up suing her and Diddy.
She testifying too. This is crazy.
What's her name? Is it
Carrie Morgan?
Carrie Morgan, yeah.
It's crazy.
I thought it was that friend that was staying with her, and Diddy came and dragged her out of her bed and was hanging her over the balcony and then threw her into some chairs or something like that. And Cassie said she woke. She said she didn't see what happened, but Diddy had a hanger or something like that.
You talking about another woman? It's
two
different women. He hit Carrie with the hanger. Her other friend was the one that he hung over the balcony. That's why I said this nigga got so much going on.
That's
man.
why I know. That was all the same thing.
All they need is one of those people to walk in there, which is likely to happen, right?
Yeah. Carrie coming. Carrie's coming. I don't know if Brianna is testifying. Brianna was the friend that he ran up in the house and said, he came looking for Cassie. Where Cassie at? Where Cassie at? And she was like, chill out. He took her, put her over the balcony, threw her on the chair. Cassie, we finna go do a freak off.
That's crazy. Is that the drugs?
That's the defense. That better be the defense. He was high.
Is it the braids?
That sounds like some kind of addiction, for sure.
Yeah,
What
that
you
I
just
mean,
say, what you just say was
what is it? Braids? No, it sounds like I mean, for you, because it sounds like I'm addicted to this freak off thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming in, I got to get my drug. Where's Cassie at? I need my, you know what I'm saying? Like, if, like you said, lean into it.
You got to
lean in hard into that.
And he better get on that stand. I'm taking the stand.
I think so too.
And I'm taking, because look, you already
nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose.
Right.
But the violence
stand.
against someone else, that the assaulting against someone else is way outside the domestic violence purview, though.
Correct, but it's gonna paint in the jury's mind.
Right.
These are the extremes he would go to force her to do the freak offs. That's how they're gonna paint it.
Because if the jury thinks that, okay, whatever, like Lauren said, whatever that instruction is, if they feel that it falls, they might not even prove that instruction, right? But if they feel like, oh, nah, he'll do this, you know what I'm saying? I think he would do this based off of him running in and threatening and doing, you know what I'm saying, and acting a fool. Let me check this box. Yep. Boom, boom. We got it. Guilty on all counts. Get him out of here. You know what I'm saying? So I say I'm with
Rico. I think he has a wiggle room with that sex trafficking. It's just too many instances.
I don't want the Rico. I might take the sex trafficking over the Rico, because the Rico is the one that's getting me the 25 to life, isn't it? And the Rico the 25 to life.
Yep.
He's done.
I don't want the Rico.
The other charges are what, 5 and 10 years?
Yeah. I don't want the Rico.
All they need to prove is two things. He's cooked, unless all these witnesses get up there next week and flip on the government and say, I was forced to say all this. Blah, 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 blah. But if I'm Diddy, I'm getting on the stand and I'm going to talk about how when I was 9 years old, the priest took me to the back room and he violated me. And ever since then, I've just had this sex compulsion. I didn't know it was a problem.
And then he better point it. Al B. Short. It ain't Christopher Williams, but he better point at Al B. Short and say, y'all looking for he the guy, not me. He better pull a Nino Brown. I'm trying to tell you. He got to do something.
You got to make us feel sorry for you. We have to feel bad for you.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to remember a parallel. Obviously, Dream Hampton did do a very good job in Surviving R. Kelly to outline that R. Kelly was the victim of sexual violence at a really young age. And if you remember, they interviewed a teacher of his and some other individual who was in the documentary that outlined that, right? And I thought that was a level of nuance that I was not expecting, because that typically does not happen for Black men. We typically do not care about their pain, do not care about their experience, and we do for women big time. But when
Dream was pretty good about that until she's not. I like Dream.
She was comprehensive about that, and then they had his brother in there. So I just think for Sean Combs, first of all, they gotta put him on the stand. This nonsense of not putting people on the stand. John Majors made a ridiculous error with that. And you're an actor, so one would think if somebody could pull off, even if you were lying, you should be able to pull it off because you were an actor. But I don't think he was lying, but I think he should have taken the stand in his own defense. Even with the fact that I was sitting there just like he was thinking, there's no evidence in this case. But see, that's not how it works. You've got to convince people. And Sean Combs has got to take that stand. He's got to.
What does he have to lose?
Right. And also,
Johnny Depp took the stand, and they didn't want him to take it. He took the stand.
That's right. And he was good. I mean, so I'm saying, like, why wouldn't you, by the way, if you think in your heart that you're somehow innocent of these charges, why wouldn't you be on the stand? That's always my question too. How bad can the cross be from what we've already heard and what we're probably going to hear next week? I mean, the cross shouldn't scare you either, right? Just be like, look, I was on drugs. I don't remember. Just do that.
Yes, I was on drugs. We was on drugs. I don't recall none of this.
I don't recall the drugs, the ketamine that kicked in.
You sent the text message. It's like Cassie said. I don't remember taking that picture in the Uber with my lip being busted like that. I don't recall. Use that. She didn't recall. Diddy didn't recall. Nobody recalled. So, Your Honor, it didn't happen. In my case, it didn't even happen. Don't nobody recall nothing. So I would use all of that.
Because your life is on the line right now. You are looking at life in prison. So I mean, it's just
You have to say, listen, she was not my sex slave. I was in a complicated situation. I had a baby mother that I loved. I had just got done with J-Lo. I wasn't ready to step out with her yet. So what we did in my personal bedroom, that was our thing. She agreed to it. I thought she was cool with it. How was I supposed to?
Right.
You got to get up there and tell us this story, because otherwise,
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't tell the story, they'll tell the story.
Yeah, and the defense is not doing a good job at painting a concise narrative of what the events are. They all over the place. So he need to get up there and start from 2018 all the way up until now. Or not 2018. I'm sorry. What it was, 2008?
I think they're going back to 04.
Even if being high prevents you from remembering some of the other stuff, you still try to clean all this up with bribery and intimidating witnesses and all that other stuff. So
I got money, right? I got money. This didn't come from the bad boy account, right? And that's what I'm saying. I got money. You know what I'm saying? I'm a rich man. I'm a billionaire. I got money. I don't know where this money came from. This didn't come out the bad boy bank account. This came out of my bank. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm throwing all of this stuff everywhere. I'm throwing it all. I pulled this out. I got a shoebox of money underneath my bed right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, he had $9,000 in the hotel.
So like, this didn't come from all that. This was just money.
And I say, look, I was finna go to the strip club one last night.
Yeah, one last night.
I was just finna make it rain. I knew this was the end. Yeah. You got to get up there and make us understand what was going on with you.
Now, once we see some checks cashed that said Sean Diddy Combs in courtesy of Bad Boy, he cooked then. He really cooked. If it's,
but he's smart enough not to do that, and like that's the Rico of it. He's not touching nothing.
Money in somebody's account.
Yeah.
One of y'all said that earlier.
I think Tina said that.
Mm-hmm. That came from somewhere. That came from some kind of bank account.
Yeah.
Gene Deal put it in there.
All right. So we will wrap this up. So far for this week, let me know, who do you think is, as far as the prosecution and the defense, who do you think is winning? Who do you think is losing? And your reasoning why? Start with you, Lauren.
I'm sorry. I was texting my boyfriend. What did you say? What was the question? Sorry.
I said, we're going to wrap this up. I said, so far for this first week, from what we've heard, as far as the prosecution and the defense, who do you think is winning? Who do you think is losing? And your reasonings why?
I think that, to my surprise, the prosecution was not as strong as I thought they would be, quite frankly, as we discussed before. I thought that she was going to slam dunk. I thought that Cassie was going to slam dunk this case, and the case was going to be over in 4 days. I did think that. I figured we would hear over 11-year period some things that we had not known anything about, that were not in the media, not in the court case, were not in nothing. And then boom, a mushroom cloud appears over the courtroom and the thing is over. That did not happen. So only by saying that would I say that I think that Sean is a little bit ahead, because frankly, I thought the case was going to be over. Of course, I do predict that will change next week, but I'm surprised, because usually I think she's the star witness. She is the victim of this story, alleged victim, but really victim, because we know already from that video she's a victim. So, it's not alleged. When we look at the victim, she's the victim of domestic violence. Period. End of story. Okay. So I do think, given that it wasn't a slam dunk, I think he's ahead. I would predict, though, that will change. I do think in the end he is going to get convicted.
Okay. Josh?
I wholeheartedly agree with all of those points. I think she made it easier to doubt her and some of the things that she had to say. However, there's plenty more stories to be told. With that, though, I hope the public doesn't give in to the salaciousness and we still get to the bottom of, did he do some of these things, and giving a fair trial to this situation.
Yeah.
All right, Blue.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're at the same place where we were at the beginning of this trial. I don't think to me the needle didn't move none. They proved that he beats on Cassie. You know what I'm saying? Which we already knew. So even with the public, other than the salaciousness and the nastiness with the details of how he does his domestic violence, nothing for me changed. He's still the despicable dude that he was before the trial, but I still don't see. I know Tina says no, the Rico is there. I'm still trying to connect the Rico dots. I think he will be, but at the end, I do think, just like LVB said, that next week it's going to be some smoke in the city next week. I believe that. It's got to be. Or I'm ready to fall asleep. This is gonna be if nothing happens next week, this is gonna be the most boring trial, and especially for the expectation of it's Diddy, and it's gonna be who's showing up, who was in the parties with him, and now we find out that it was just him and Cat. That's it, and some rando escort. Come on, man.
If nothing happens next week, we've got the worst with the hotel video, I think.
Yeah, now I just think now it's just gonna get down to details. It's just gonna be detail. Connect this dot to this dot to this dot, and it's now the chess match is who's gonna do the better storytelling, prosecution or defense.
Right.
Okay, Tina.
So my takeaway this week is he's already convicted on transportation or prostitution. Like, you done. And they're going to put more sex workers up to co-sign that. So he's done on that. The sex trafficking is very gray. So I don't know about that. We didn't dig into the RICO predicates this week, but pretty soon we're going to get into them. And I don't think they're going to be explosive. They're just going to be these little small random things like, hey, why did the hotel video go missing? Who paid the person? Where did the hard drive go? And that's your bribery. So it's going to be all these little random things. Hey, Diddy made so-and-so get in the car and wouldn't let him leave. That's your kidnapping. So I don't think it's going to be explosions. I think it's going to be these little small random things that
small detail
show that you had people around you willing to do whatever you told them to do, even if it was illegal. That's it.
Okay. Well, I would agree. I think I think that they're even. I think for me, again, like Blue said, once I realized that that there were people who went to the white party, wasn't part of the freak offs, that took down a whole level of the salacious part. And then we got into actually what it was. And I'm like, they just some fans. That's all.
That's all.
Down to fans. They're just some fans. And I okay.
You froze. You're back. She probably
frozen.
You're back.
You're back.
Okay. I just think I agree with Tina. I think that the transportation of the escorts over for the freak offs is going to get them, and the fact that since it's so specific to them, there's no way around it. It's not like you had people in there partying and you invited escorts and everything, and everybody was in there just dancing and partying or doing something else. No, this was very specific to Diddy and Cassie. So right now I'm waiting for next week, but I am looking forward to see what Jules looks like since he was chosen to be the best.
Maybe the white party thing should have been a thing as a, maybe he should have guys did in these extravagant parties, and maybe would have been better. Now, will. Well, I don't think the way Cassie made it seem like that wasn't it. It was intimate. There was no the party like Pam said. I'm not picking people off and hey, look, man, come down to the room around 1:30. It's gonna go down. It's it's not that. Even and it's crazy. Even with the when Tony Busby went after Jay-Z with the girl from Rochester, New York, or whatever. That even is really like, let's get that out of here, because y'all tried to make it seem like at the Diddy party that this is what was going on. It's like, nah, Diddy didn't do this with regular people. He didn't do it. Y'all were not good enough to be doing this with Diddy.
That's my point. It wasn't, the way a lot of these lawsuits are reading, as I can recall, people got plucked from parties or people got plucked from such and such, but we're seeing, but that's going to have to be called something else, because that definitely wasn't the freak off. And so the salaciousness of it all has kind of died down for me. But as far as the prosecution, they did show that he's a violent man. They did show that he likes a lot of drugs and stuff like that on his freak. He has that. They did show that he has a huge amount of money that he's peeling off so these escorts and things could be paid. She did talk about the injuries that she had and the places that she had to stay and she couldn't go and all these little different things. So they showed that, but I'm still trying to figure out, there's still some more stuff. And I think we would get that from one of the other two victims that we're talking about.
Yeah. Did Jonathan Atty show up?
Is he in jail or is he?
Yeah, he's in jail. Do we need Jonathan Atty? Do we? What does he add?
He said that he was paid by Cassie and Diddy to do. I mean, that would be at
But
least,
we already, but they just put an escort on that already said that. How many escorts do we need to say that Diddy paid us to?
Well, he
You
did
know.
have a police interview where he was saying that he was, maybe that goes towards hey, I don't know, maybe that goes towards RICO or something.
Yeah. Who paid him? Did he pay him? Did you know what I'm saying? You put him on, say, hey, yeah, it was such and such. Dude did, he brought in a bag of money or whatever, and he said, "Here from Diddy," and I got to work and doing my job or whatever.
Are y'all talking about? Are y'all talking about the free costs, or are you talking about the settlement that he paid Jonathan?
No, for the free costs.
Okay.
Yeah, for the free costs. Because like I said, I'm trying to get to to me, RICO is the major thing here. All those other things, I think, I'm not going to say that Diddy can live with them, but that RICO is done. You out of here. You know what I'm saying? You are gone. Like oblivion, to the abyss you go, my friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I know they want to beat that RICO charge. I think they might be able to deal with the trafficking. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, hey Diddy, they got you on the trafficking, my God.
Are they proving that these people were paid specifically for sex, or were they escorts and then it led to sex? Did they prove that?
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah. Right. They haven't really gotten to what their job title is specifically.
But I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to.
No, they did. I'm sorry, Tina, they did. Cassie said they would go online and they would pick them up or order them from these websites.
But they were escort websites.
Right, escort websites. So that tells me that's not trafficking then. That's
part of the RICO is that you have to prove that there was a conspiracy to break the law, and getting an escort off a website is not against the law.
Yeah.
To pay them for that is not against the law.
Right.
But to be doing prostitution with money behind it is against the law. Yeah. They're going to have to prove that. So I'm just wondering.
I think that's different, though. I think they're not really trying to put the prostitution in the RICO. The prostitution is a separate charge. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute. Did they pay the service? They went to the back pages and then they found a company that did escort services, or did they find the individual?
She said the actual website.
They went to two websites, and after they started running out of the websites, then they just started hitting people up on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question, because they paid the website for the escort.
For the escort, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is key.
Was the money a tip?
But this is what happened. They said after they found a man that they liked, Diddy would say, "We just want to work with you one-on-one. We don't want to go through the site anymore." And that's where the cash start coming into play. They didn't want to book them through the site. They started getting phone numbers.
They got subcontracted out then. I'm saying, is that a legal gray area there? You know,
no, the legal gray area is that RICO has got to be something illegal, and contacting an escort site and paying them through the escort site may not necessarily be illegal. That's what I'm saying. And that's where the bribe,
the obstruction of justice, the kidnapping, that's where that's going to fall under the RICO. Those things. They're keeping, I think, the prostitution separate from the RICO. If anybody can pull up the RICO statute, it says you have to have someone who's committed at least 2 of these crimes within 10 years. And that list of crimes is so vast. That's why it's so hard to beat RICO.
Okay.
There was like drug trafficking, violence, can't remember.
Bribery, extortion,
sexual exploitation,
illegal gambling, bribery, kidnapping, murder, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
Arson's one.
Who has gotten on the stand to confirm?
But that's why I said it depends on what these co-defendants get up there and say. Are they going to say, Diddy told me to blow up Kid Cudi's car? Or are they going to say, I just went and did it because I wanted to satisfy the boss?
So here's one thing. It says you have to, but it has to be an enterprise. And this is how enterprise is defined. Either the defendants have to be invested in the proceeds of the pattern of racketeering activity into the enterprise, acquired or maintained an interest in or control of the enterprise through the pattern of racketeering, conducted or participated in the affairs of the enterprise through the pattern of racketeering, conspired to do one of the above, subsection D. So
if any of them were involved in any of the free costs themselves, then would that not be a RICO?
Yeah, but I don't think they care to. She laid it out in the opening statement how we finna do RICO. He kidnapped someone, he did arson, and he obstructed justice. So they're not even trying to add the freak offs into the RICO. They're trying to look at the other things that he did.
Mm-hmm. Embezzlement, bankruptcy, drug trafficking, criminal copyright infringement, money laundering, bringing in and aiding and assisting aliens, act of terror. If they bring in an immigrant up there, he done. He is done. If one of them workers was not, he out of here.
Kidnapping. That's a hard
Maybe they
one.
can get a Smokey Robinson victims.
We'll see who else shows
Get
up.
a Smokey victim. That's crazy.
All right, people. We're gonna go ahead and conclude this live because we got to go into next week. Will you all be willing to do this another weekend?
I'm ready. I can do it every
I
week.
think I'll be for you next weekend.
Oh, you know, I won't be here next weekend.
If we're doing it on the Saturday, I should be good because I got to go to LA and then I should be back this weekend.
Okay. So we because I am curious to see our predictions and thoughts coming into after this next week of what's going on.
It's the
All right,
co-Ds. It's the co-Ds. That's what we gotta watch. What are the co-defendants gonna do?
Yeah.
If they get up there and Lil Wody it, he finna walk. But if they get up there and say, he told me to do everything.
How many does it take for Lil Woody to come in and how many Cody's? Like let's say it's 4. If one Cody come in there and do a Lil Woody, what does that throw a monkey wrench in there? Just one?
Because if you got 3 other people saying, I did the car bombing, I did the kidnapping, and then you got one person who he bribed, and then the dude's like, well, it technically wasn't a bribe, it was a PR. You still got 2 other people saying I blew up the car.
What does that one Woody say? I'm bad boy. Like
I'm bad boy. It's crazy.
All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. You see their names on the screen. Please support their channels. Go subscribe to their channels and everything because they told you what they did at the beginning, and we're not going to have them do it at the end. You can definitely go back and see. All right, people. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that helper that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people,
bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Peace.